Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 293. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up, nerds?
Connor is also here.
Still knocking around, just about.
Yes. We all live in misery as a result.
I don't live in Missouri. I live in Nevada.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
That's a geographic joke. Absolutely not. Thank you. No offense to those listeners that live in Missouri, but you know, I've read your Twitter feeds. It's not going so great.
I like how Matt had to point out that he actually wanted to tell us that was a geographical joke.
Yes.
Yeah. just in case no one got it.
Yes, welcome to the show. It's the DC Comics podcast. We talk about DC Comics every week. Coming up on this week's show, we'll be talking about Detective Comics 1053, Nightwing 89, Wonder Woman 784, The Flash 779, Batman The Night issue 2, and Supergirl Women of Tomorrow issue 8. Plus, of course, it is Solicits week. We have the May 2022 Solicits to look through and discuss, and I've not looked at the solicits directly yet, but I did see a couple of the new things on Twitter that people were pimping out.
A couple of big new books announced, and I know there's a couple of other books that have had final issue notices.
So just your stuff to talk about in there. I'm sure there's something else heated from this week that's going to come up. Probably.
Probably when you try to get sales figures.
No, we'll save it for after solicits. But it was you know, that is going to be a topic of discussion as well when we get to the first segment of the show. But welcome everyone to episode 293, getting dangerously close to episode 300. So yes,
I'm probably gonna have to book that weekend off work, aren't I? Because otherwise that'd be a weird one for me to miss.
When Connor gets the days off, I was like, no, I can't do it.
No, we have to record on a weird day this week.
Was it 293?
Oh, he's done.
That would be 7 weeks.
All right, stop it. Probably got ages yet.
Don't think it's an April Fool's joke. He doesn't really want that weekend off.
Do you know what? It's the weekend after that.
Is it? Okay.
The 9th, not the 2nd.
And that's where, and that's where you really do your pranks. Is the week after when no one expects it.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, right. I'm sure work will appreciate that.
So. Yes, welcome to the show. Now, normally I would start with saying something up to the effect of there's always time for a Comixology top 10. Obviously, events from this week have put a bit of a kibosh on that. But have no fear, everyone at home, in your cars, in the bathtub, wherever you listen to this show. I know there's a variety of locations that one might partake.
I would not trust my headphones in the bathtub because I wouldn't put us on a Bluetooth speakers. I wouldn't want anybody knowing.
To be fair, I have wireless earphones, and I literally don't go in the shower without them. Like,
what?
Completely waterproof ones.
Oh, they're waterproof, obviously.
Yeah, I got waterproof ones, and I don't shower without earphones in.
I should get waterproof earphones. I'd love to listen to some music when I'm in the shower. That sounds like a great idea.
They weren't expensive. You can get them for like 30 quid.
I have trust issues because I don't trust it.
I've tried to play audio while I'm in the shower, just so from the other side of the bathroom. But the problem is the sound of the shower is so loud that you can't really turn it up loud enough.
I'll link you to these ones later. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I've used these for like a year solid. Like,
very good.
Every day in the shower, they're good.
I just use a Bluetooth speaker. It's on the shelf outside the shower. It works.
Yeah. So yes. Anyway, so now I say it's time for Comixology Top 10. The Comixology Top 10 does not exist anymore. More on that later. I think we're going to get a bit of a discussion after the solicits. But have no fear, because I'm not willing to let this segment and in its essence.
If this is from a certain site that I think it is, I want no part in this.
No. Calm down. Right?
This is the most Vince McMahon Pete gets. He's like, there's a thing I want to do, and I'm not going to stop until I do it.
Look, I'm just saying that a weekly top 10 of some sort that we can start off the show as a bit of an icebreaker and mainly to torture Connor. Like, this is just something I want to be a fundamental part of the fabric of the multiverse that we are built on. So, I might try a few...
top 10 of?
I might try... No. This week's top 10 selling jams in the Canada region. No, I'm kidding. No. So, I may try a few different things, but at least for this week, my first experiment for potential replacements to the Comixology top 10 is the top 10 books based on number of reviews that they have from Comic Book Roundup. Because at first I was going to just do based on rating, but the problem with that is that if you include everything, all of the top 10 are a bunch of weird indie books that have only had one review and they're all rated 10 out of 10. So that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. Would be interesting to talk about.
It's an interesting, like, I get your desire to have this segment. There's a flawed approach in that this is only taking in critics, right?
I could switch to user ratings if you so wish.
Feel it's probably fairer. Because, I mean, I still don't know how many
There's a lot more user ratings. So, I mean,
I feel like that's more indicative, at least, than critic ratings. But, I mean, I don't know how it reflects the wider community.
Oh, no, I can't sort by user reviews. I can sort by user ratings, but not by the number of user reviews. But we'll give it a try this week. I'll try some different things. I might even do something a bit custom once if I get an idea of how to like sort of take this information and present it in a form that can be used in a top 10 fashion. But at the very least, this will give us an idea of like what books are actually being looked at and read. And in the event of ties, and it's quite often there will be ties in this case because there's not that many reviews for these books, then the rating will sort of like break the ties between the books.
This is terrible.
Kara's unhappy, which means so far this is a roaring success.
This is a terrible, flawed system.
It's a roaring success so far. So, what do you think the most reviewed book of the week was?
I don't really care.
Of all books or of just DC?
All books.
Oh, hold on, I have to reload this then.
It is a DC book.
I don't know what else came out. Is it Nightwing?
It is Nightwing.
There you go.
Nightwing's the most reviewed book of the week. See? Right, DC kind of dominating the top 5 here a little bit because number 2 is Batman the Knight, issue 2. Number 3 is Detective Comics 1053, and number 4 is Supergirl, Moon of Tomorrow. You have to go to the 5th book before you get to Marvel. This is actually coming up better than the sales figures so far.
Which, let me guess, is X-Men.
No, actually, there was an issue 1, you see. Issue 1s tend to get reviewed a lot.
Shoot.
Yeah, Iron Fist, issue 1.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Which is only averaging a 7.8, might I add.
That's not that bad a score.
No, but that character's had so many stops and starts since that stupid show came on.
It's a new Iron Fist, though, isn't it? I don't really know much about the book. I just know in general it's not Danny Rand.
No. It's not a little bit lower than all the other books I've mentioned so far, though.
Fair enough.
Should all reviewing well enough. Number 6 is Back to DC with Justice League issue 72, which you'll be happy to hear has got a 6.5, which is the lowest rating of any book thus far. Then we have an Image comic book called Primordial, issue 6.
That's the Lemire and Sorrentino.
I
think that's the final issue of that series. So
that makes sense. It's getting some attention. Another Image book with Rain issue 2 up next. At number 8. Yeah. Number 9, Back to DC Comics with Aquaman the Becoming issue 6. And number 10 is Nubia and the Amazons issue 5. So DC heavily, for whatever reason, at least this week, DC is way more reviewed than Marvel is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a consistent thing. Maybe not as many people are reviewing the Marvel books. Once you get into the next batch, though, it's mostly Marvel books. It's, you get your Amazing Spider-Man, you get X-Men issue 8, Hulk issue 4, so on. Wonder Woman's mixed in there somewhere as well. So, that's what it is. But, yeah. Well, my original thought was that I was going to give you a top 10 based on the ratings, but just limited to DC. The problem I had with that, though, as an idea, is that while it might technically be more indicative of something than just how many reviews they have, the problem with that is that I felt like our reactions to what the order is just kind of is like teasing for what we're going to say about the books later. So it felt like it was kind of stepping on our own toes. Right? Yeah. So I don't want to do that. But
where was Flash at in that?
And the actual top 10 I gave?
Yeah.
And the reviews? Let me tell you. Flash was down about number 20-ish. They're not numbered, so I'm having to just kind of ballpark it once it's that low.
Gotcha.
But yeah. So I admit this one was a bit shaky. This was a bit last minute. I kind of forgot I had to come up with some new format until about
I did warn you.
20 minutes before the show started. Right? I'm going to give this some more thought. I'm going to try out some different things to replace the Comixology top 10. But everyone let me know what you thought of that. This
I
version of it.
personally feel it should
No
be
one cares what
retired-
you personally
No.
feel like.
It should be retired in protest of what has happened to Comixology.
And I will continue to do it in protest of you.
Fine.
So there you go. It's not like it takes that long. We're already done. I had to explain a whole new format with this, and it was still done in under like 5 minutes. This is easy peasy.
Waste of 5 minutes.
Lemon
See,
squeezy.
Connor, I know people love your banter, but I've just learned just to be quiet and let him do his list, and then we can move on. You know,
You could have at least
look
got a
up-
list.
I look up coffee. You know, I listen, but you know,
Listen.
looking for which NFL Super Bowl champion shirt I want to buy for the Rams win. But yeah.
Yes, I heard someone say the boring team won. That's what I heard.
It's whatever. I was happy. They're my team. I was right there. My mother-in-law's boyfriend told me I needed to calm down.
Oh, do you know what?
I-
I actually assumed the Rams this whole time were a Vegas team just because it's the one you like.
No.
I found out this week they're actually LA.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Vegas didn't get a team until 2 years ago when they stole the Raiders from Oakland in a thing that I'm still upset over.
How do you steal a team?
Well, it wasn't stolen, so Oakland wouldn't pay for
With
a
lots
new
of manpower
stadium.
to move the
God,
stadium.
Yeah,
American sports, you weird bastards.
yeah. So a lot of these leagues, right? They're kind of capped out at the number of teams they can support. So the NFL hasn't expanded since 2004, and so now there's always a trade chip in the fact that being a big city without a team, they can always move, right? So like for the longest time that was LA, and then the Rams moved there, 4 years ago, and then the Chargers moved out of San Diego to LA, and now they share a stadium, which is real shitty. But Oakland, the team wanted the city to pay for a stadium, and the city goes, absolutely not. You guys have billionaire owners. You guys can pay for a stadium. That's what the Rams did in LA, and whatever. But Vegas, wanting to have a piece of the NFL,
ludicrous.
decided, hey, we're going to tax tourists more to build a stadium. But while our schools are crumbling, we're not going to raise taxes on tourists to help the schools, but to pay for a $1 billion stadium, sure as shit. So
American sports leagues are nonsense. I'm sorry, they are. Just do what the rest of us do.
Uh-huh.
Just start another league underneath, and you can move up and down between them.
No, so we don't have that. Like there are smaller leagues, but like for as far as football's concerned, they've tried to do smaller leagues, and it never pans out. Just
It'll
because of the
pan out
talent pool.
if you take the best two teams from that smaller league at the end of the season and go, right, you're in the
Right,
big
but
leagues
that's
next time and knock the bottom two out.
No,
then
no,
I promise
that's-
you it'll get more
that's
interesting.
good for expansion. But once you're at the top, right? So like hockey right now, they don't they just expanded, so now they have 32 teams, right? Seattle
Sure.
became a team right after. There's probably not going to be another team in the NHL probably ever, unless another one folds. So now there's talk of like the Coyotes being moved. So that's where that type of stuff happens. But
Yeah.
none of those, all of the smaller leagues in every other sport are indebted to the major league. So there's never any, because there's partnerships and
Yes,
whatnot.
because
So,
your
like,
system is broken.
right. So like with baseball, that would be a great idea. Like you would cut out like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who haven't had a winning season, and I think they had one maybe 5 years ago. But up to then,
someone else gets a shot at their spot.
right. In theory, I love that, but it'll never happen with the TV money and all this other stuff. So, but anyways, yes. So the Rams, were an LA team first, then they moved to St. Louis, and then now they're back home. And now both the St. Louis Rams and the LA Rams have won Super Bowl. 22 years in between. and I'm very happy. So yes, but yeah, having an older guy watching the game with me and telling me I need to settle down might be a hype mat experience. So yes, very very happy.
Oh well, for the love of all things, let's end this quickly. And it's time for the May 2022 DC solicitations. This is all the books that are going to be released in May, as announced yesterday at the time of recording, and we're going to get into it. A couple of interesting new things in there. Like I said, I've not looked at the solicits themselves yet, but I saw a few of the new things sort of spread around on Twitter. So let's dive in and discover as we go. First up, Batman issue 123. This is part 5 of Shadow War. Are you laughing at 123?
I think
I
it is.
am.
Because that's the order the numbers usually go in.
Yeah, yes, I know, but still, just Batman 123 sounds like a new like kids book. You know, like a
Is
like
it
a learning.
you have a Batman ABC alongside it?
Yeah,
Keeps on the numbers and
yeah.
the letters.
Yeah, I just said Batman number 123. I wouldn't have laughed as much, but Batman 123. Yeah, you know, D is for dead parents.
Then the music version is Batman a 1 and a 2 and a.
That's how you dance the Batootsie.
Yes. I thought Carl would appreciate that joke, given his music background, but he no sold it.
Because the more simple would have just been Batman 1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't think that's distinct enough from just
Pete?
saying 1, 2, 3. Jesus Christ.
You know, I know Pete's music taste. You know, I know where it kind of verges, but he does strike me as someone that would like math rock with weird time signatures, and so it does check out, Connor.
I have never heard of math. Is this a real thing?
No, it is.
Okay.
So that they play with the time signature, so it's all like super like music nerds really like it. So like there's a metal subgenre of it, of course, and that's where you get like Dillinger Escape Plan, and it's all very wonky and weird, and you know, not my taste at all. But I figured it might be Pete's.
I've not encountered it, so I can't comment. We got Shadow War Part 6 with Deathstroke Inc. issue 9. Then we got Part 7 with Robin issue 14. And then we got Shadow War Omega issue 1 to wrap up the crossover event.
And it leads directly into DC's next big summer event, which
Jesus.
that's what it says at the end of the solicit text there. And that doesn't fill me with excitement after a 9 part?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know if the alpha is part 1 or if that's like a 0 part, and then this is part. So I don't know if
Well,
this
so
is part
10
8 or
10
part
would make
9.
sense, right? Because then that's two trades and one big trade. So
Well, because Robin was part 7 and then Omega, so I don't know if this is part 8 or if this is, you know,
Right.
if Alpha was part 1, or if that was like a 0 essentially. So
Yeah,
this
like-
is either 8 or 9 parts.
Part of me gets a little bit, you know, tired of it just playing to one thing. The other part of me is like, that's what comics did when I first started reading them. So I don't know if I enjoy it or if it's just the nostalgia. You know?
Does this just mean it's like going to have some lead into Dark Crisis? Is that all it's talking about? Because if it's just Dark Crisis,
so,
I mean,
because it's Williamson.
that's not a big deal though. If it's because we already know about Dark Crisis. If it's another summer
Right.
event, then I'll have more of a problem with it.
I'm not having a concern about announcing another event. That wasn't. It was just more. I'm already like, okay, this is a lot of books. I'm not really reading Deathstroke Inc., so I've got to pick up that. There's these Alpha and Omega issues, and then I'm concerned now that the end of it is just going to feel like, oh, it's just prelude to the next event that I'm not that excited for.
I get that, but I trust Williamson at this point. Like, you know, just like Incarnate only being like a prequel to Dark Crisis, notwithstanding, he's pretty good at telling the story where it needs to be. You know, so I'll reserve judgment. Like if Shadow War is a complete and total mess, then yeah, that's gonna tamper my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's also Shadow War Zone issue 1, which has got stories in it by Williamson, Ed Brisson, Stephanie Phillips, and Nadia Shamus, and this is basically a collection of stories sort of like showing how the Shadow War has impacted the DCU. There's a Talia al Ghul story, Black Canary, Luke Fox is in there. So this seems to be like a companion one-shot to go alongside Shadow War,
Mhm.
but I imagine it's probably not 100% necessary. if I was to make a guess.
Yeah, new villain Angel Breaker though, so it'll sell because speculators.
Yeah.
Angel Breaker.
I mean, it's written by Williamson, Brisson, Stephanie Phillip, and Nadia Shamas.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they'll each do a story, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll end up picking this up because it's still Williamson.
Yeah. Just given the length, which it's a bit annual sized, or just a bit bigger than that even. I suspect it'll probably just be a set of stories. So, yeah, next up we got Batman Fortress issue 1 by Gary Whitta.
Wow.
And art by Derek Robertson. Do you know what's so weird about Gary Whitta is that I actually know him as someone who does a gaming podcast, and I only just found out this past week or two that he was like one of the writers on like Rogue One. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, he was the original writer on it. I think he's written for some games as well though. Like he wrote, I believe, the Walking Dead Telltale games that were generally quite well regarded for their writing.
I had no idea he was a writer until a couple of weeks ago. So
he wrote the original Prey game, not the one from a few years ago, the first one.
Oh, the first one that only a very small select people. I mean, they seem to praise it, but only a small select people played it.
Yes, I know everyone who has played it seems to love it, right?
Yeah.
I just know him from writing on Rebels.
Also, people may know him as the creator of Loodle, the Lude spin-off to Wordle.
Is that a real thing?
I've never heard of it.
It is a real thing. He made it as a coding joke where basically it's Wordle, except all the words are, lewd.
Wait, are we talking swear words?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, that sort of stuff.
There's also a Squabble. If you fancy Wordle, but it's Battle Royale, then you can go play that.
Yeah.
If you want to be on like a time-sensitive crunch where you're trying to beat other people.
Hell no, I don't need that type of stress in my life. But I also saw that, so the artist on here, Derek Robertson, CBR made a big boo-boo and credited him as Robert Derrickson. And he has taken this and ran with it on Twitter. It's very funny.
I like him. I follow him on Twitter. I like him as a personality. I'm not a huge fan of that. He's the guy who did the Boys, right? Yeah. Which I don't love. I think he did that Hellblazer mini with Tom Taylor a couple of years back.
That sounds right.
That we tried the first issue of. Like it's not.
I don't remember
tastes,
thinking the art in that was bad though.
It's not bad. It's just not to my tastes as a rule, which kind of dampens my personal excitement for this book. But I'll probably try anyway because I tend to like Gary Whitta.
It's a new miniseries though, so I'll read the solicit text here. So it's an 8-issue series. When an unknown alien ship enters Earth's atmosphere, disrupting global power and communications and plunging the planet into chaos, the world is left wondering, where is Superman when he is needed most? In the mysterious absence of the last son of Krypton, Batman must rally the rest of the Justice League to counter the alien threat. But first, he must quell a crime wave on the blacked-out streets of Gotham. What's weird about this is there's already like a Black Label book right now about Gotham not having power, which is really funny to me that this is also happening.
But that doesn't have an alien invasion happening.
No. I'm really enjoying that other book though, so this has got some shoes to fill. But I mean, I'm not a fan of Rogue One, but I have no idea what his writing's like in a comic book, and I have no idea what he's like writing Batman.
So I'm not sure anyone really knows what his writing's like on Rogue One, given
because I was gonna say, from what I understand, his draft was a little bit different. It was a little bit more Star Wars and less bleak, which I like, because again, his episodes of Rebels I enjoyed, and they're very Star Warsy. So I mean, I don't know.
Even with Rebels, though, it's not a good, because if he's a writer on it, like if he's doing a couple episodes on a TV show that already has an established style and there's a showrunner, it's hard to gauge how much of his episodes are purely just down to his own skill.
True. I was just using that as a prop up against Rogue One, which I don't like. It's a finely made movie. I just don't like watching it.
I guess what I'm saying is, though, despite the fact that we've all seen something from his writing work, I don't feel we can gauge anything from any of it. Is I guess what I'm saying. So I hope it sounds like a fun enough premise. I mean, admittedly, more Bat books is always something that you can roll your eyes at because DC are going to sell a lot of Bat books, but
but as long as they keep selling, they're going to keep making them. And
I mean, I can't argue there's a supply and demand. thing going on with it. So there you
I mean,
go.
we're all pretty guilty of buying them anyway, right?
Well, this is the thing. They keep putting good people on them, so they keep being good.
It really depends. Like I didn't want to like the Imposter. I can't help it that it ended up being good.
I'm not saying we all exclusively buy every Bat book as a rule. Clearly, we don't. But the problem is, enough of them are good that we do end up buying them. So
yeah, most of them anyway. It is what it is. It's almost a little bit self-perpetuating because it's you put the good creators on the Batman books, therefore the Batman books are really good, so you want to read them, and so on and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Batman 2022 Annual Issue 1, notably not by Williamson. This is Ed Brisson writing this with John Timms on art. So
still following on though from the Abyss stuff. It's kind of dealing in the aftermath of that.
Yeah, notably we got Clown Hunter on the cover as well as Ghostmaker. So he's really
out.
They're really using those Tynan creations in this. I mean, Matt says he's out. Are you actually out?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on that week.
Oh, he's definitely not out.
Matt likes to throw his mouth
I never
around.
went back and read the last Batman annual, which is the end of that Ghostmaker story. So
Yeah,
well, none of us did.
That was tied to the Ghostmaker story. This is, yes, it features Ghostmaker in Clown Hunter, but this is more directly set in the aftermath of the story that we're currently reading.
Now, if it was Williamson and these characters I don't care for, then I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna read it. This being Ed Brisson could just be superfluous.
It could be. It very well could be.
It could, yeah.
Yes. So that's that. We got Batman One Dark Knight issue 3. Speaking of the book with the power outage plotline.
I love this cover because he looks like an absolute madman.
Yeah. So this is issue 3 of 3 coming out in May. So I assume that means issue 2 is like this month or next month. Next month maybe.
God knows with these books.
But yeah, I really liked issue 1, so I'm looking forward to issue 2. So we got Flashpoint Beyond issue 2, because I know we're all excited to see what this crazy thing is.
And issue 3 and issue 4.
Oh, and issue 3, that's right. I forgot this was coming out quickly.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you got issues 2, 3, and 4 all in there. And then we got The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive, issue 2. This is the Ken Porter and Jon Faraya story. So, I forgot it was Faraya. I'm excited to see Faraya's art again.
Didn't remember that at all, and now I'm suddenly more interested because that's good.
Yeah, it's just a 3-issue mini. Yeah. It's a Barry story, and we're getting Wally in the main book right now. So I mean, there's reasons to be interested.
Is this the one that was tied to the movies?
I don't think so.
I remember there was one last month that had a weird name that we weren't sure what it was.
I can't tell from the cover. I don't know if look at the variants.
Yeah, no, because it says Barry Allen's early days as the Flash continue.
Maybe it is the one tied to the movie. I don't know.
I'm gonna look right now.
Next up, we got Action Comics 2022 Annual Issue 1. So I guess obviously with 2 annuals so far, that tells me there's a 5th Tuesday in May. So this is Kennedy Johnson along with Cy Spurrier on this book with Dale Eaglesham and Ian Churchill on the art. So,
damn it, Connor, you're correct. It is. Oh, well. It is the one that ties in. So
sorry.
Oh, we should have known. It's got a variant cover by Andy Muschietti.
Oh, there you go.
There it is. I was going to complain that I don't like when they take Wally's villains and apply them to Barry. So Tar Pit being here. But now I can just skip it.
So it's movie continuity, so whatever.
Yeah,
it's a shame that you're wasting a really good artist on that.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, I have to say that first Action Comics cover I'm not super into.
I see what you did there.
The Francavilla one.
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I don't know, there's something weird about the Superman's face in that one. I'm just not super into. And I like Francavilla's art typically.
That's very Kirby-esque on here with the colors and the dots.
I like the other cover, the more painted looking one.
Well, yeah, I mean that's classic Superman play. I mean that's the cover of
that Francavilla one is one of my favorite covers that we've seen yet in these solicits.
No, I like it.
I like Francavilla art usually quite a bit. Not in love with that cover though. But hey, that's what it is. Aquaman Andromeda issue 1. So here's one of the juicy new books that I saw shared on Twitter. This is Ram V doing an Aquaman Black Label book with art by Christian Ward.
Who's also pretty great.
Yeah, I'll read the description for this since it's a new Black Label book. I mean, maybe not the whole thing. There's usually some fluff at the end, but... Deep in the Pacific Ocean, at the farthest possible distance from any land, sits Point Nemo, the spaceship graveyard. Since the dawn of the space race, the nations of the world have sent their crafts there on splashdown to sink beneath the silent seas. But there is something else at Point Nemo, a structure never made by human hands, and that structure seems to be waking up. The crew of the experimental submarine Andromeda, powered by a mysterious black hole drive, have been chosen to investigate the mystery, but they aren't the only ones pursuing it. Anything of value beneath the ocean is of value to the master pirate Black Manta, and anything that attracts Black Manta attracts Arthur Curry, his lifelong foe, the Aquaman. I'll stop there. This sounds fun. This
seems pulpy as hell.
It's bringing a cosmic horror sensibility to the world of Aquaman. There's a quote there that I'm like, yes, I'm in.
Typically speaking, whenever you mix Aquaman with horror, I tend to like the results because aquatic horror is something we don't get enough of just in general.
Yeah, considering how much of the Earth is covered by water.
Yeah. I was I don't know if you guys heard of it. There's a podcast called The Magnus Archives.
Nope.
It's like a narrative podcast that the format is kind of they read out statements of stories from people they're like Eldritch-esque horror, and so it manages to jump around, tell a lot of different style of stories with having like has like an overarching narrative as well. But the standout episode in the first like 100 odd for me is this one set underwater. This diver, and there's just something monstrously large down there, and and you just get this glimpse, and because of it's all in audio, it's really effective.
Might have to send that one to me.
Yeah,
it sounds
it's good.
Yeah, no, I dig that. Obviously, Ram V's been doing great stuff, but you take Aquaman horror, and then you add in this extra kind of submarines going to investigate a mystery kind of angle, and I'm all about it.
Were you reading Aquaman when Cullen Bunn had? I think it was Cullen Bunn had like those 3 issues, and it felt like they were building to Aquaman versus Cthulhu.
Just right near the end of the book. New 52 before Abnett took over.
I think so. Yeah. I think I read that.
Oh man, it was. Been a while, they were teasing all sorts of Lovecraftian stuff, and then creative differences, and he left. So very very sad. But yeah, I've never thought of Black Manta as a pirate, but I mean,
he definitely is a pirate.
He kind of is.
No, I know, but like I think of him as a supervillain first, pirate second, right? Like. So for them to call him a master pirate here, I was like, yes, let's lay it all the way into that.
Next up, we got Earth Prime Legends of Tomorrow issue 3, which is obviously nothing particularly notable. It's a TV show tie-in, but
except it says "Hold on to your Beeples."
I was just going to say the first line of the solicit text is "Hold on to your Beeples," which I do appreciate. So there's that. Earth Prime Stargirl issue 4 again. One of these TV tie-in things. Then we have the one we knew about from last week or 2 weeks ago, the Jurassic League issue 1, with Daniel Warren and Juan Gideon writing with art by Juan Gideon. So, yes. I mean, what can you say? It's the Justice League, or at least the Trinity as dinosaurs, and
they're all dinosaurs. Everyone's dinosaurs.
Man,
it's going to be fantastic.
Gets us so wrong, because we talked about last time that the bat dinosaur is not a Tyrannosaurus; it's an Allosaurus. But here, they say a Tyrannosaurus Rex dons the visage of a bat to strike fear into evildoers' hearts. I was like, guys, come on. So everybody in these solicits get it together.
There's sometimes where you can tell the solicits are being written by corporate, and other times where they're being sent by the creators.
Right.
This was a corporate solicit for sure.
Next up, we got Nubia, the Coronation Special issue 1. This is a one-shot. I presume this is coming out of the events of Trial of the Amazons and is setting up wherever Nubia is going next.
I would say, given that the first line is after the events of Trial of the Amazons, I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
Man, All those covers look good. I just clicked through all of them.
Yeah, it's actually quite nice covers. I'm not as keen on the black and white one at the end, but
Yeah, that's still pretty okay.
I do like the first one they're showing, which I'm assuming is the David Mack one, because I love that man.
Yeah, the splashes of color. Yeah, I really like that stuff. So that is cool. I mean, maybe if I do end up reading all of Trail of the Amazons, and I'm not sure if I am yet, but if I do end up reading it all, maybe I'll read this if I'm into it enough. But yeah, this is another big one shot. I assume this is out on the. Oh no, it's not in the 5th week. This is out on the 1st week of the month. All right, fair enough. But hey, so you got that. DC versus Vampires Hunters issue 1. What is this little? This is a one shot. By Matthew Rosenberg writing, Neil Gouge on the art. A blood-soaked one-shot tale of vampire violence. The son of Batman, after years of training to be an assassin, is on a path toward utter destruction of the vampire race. Enter Damian Wayne, Vampire Hunter. So is this just something they've thought up whilst they've been scripting?
Probably.
I think so.
Yeah, because obviously we knew that Tynion had done the first the plot of the series.
And it's notably he's not connected to this, and this doesn't even seem like it's in the same continuity. Weirdly, because this kind of just feels like, let's take that premise and just do a Damian issue.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You want to see Damian Wayne fight vampires? Yes, here you go.
I mean, it's not even oversized, so it's actually an easy, it's a cheaper book, and it's it's just a regular size book, so it's not.
I assume, assuming you've been enjoying that main book, probably going to want to pick this up.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine I'll enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. Next up, here's another big new book that I saw on Twitter. Danger Street issue 1. This is a new Tom King book with Jorge Fornes, and it is it's basically pulling in a lot of weird characters into a premise. So this is a 12-issue prestige Tom King book, Black Label. Here's the solicit text. Joining the Justice League is a goal for any superhero, but what happens when a quest for membership takes a sinister turn? Join Starman, Metamorpho, and Warlord as they look to prove themselves worthy by summoning and defeating Darkseid and Baal. Soon they'll learn that calling upon a new god never ends well, and their world is headed for a crisis as a result. The journey to save the day will be treacherous one filled with princesses, knights, and all kinds of monsters. Each person the heroes encounter plays a crucial role in sprawling yet gripping narrative that is a little bit silly, a whole lot dark, and completely cool. Expect the unexpected with a supporting cast featuring Manhunter, Lady Cop, the Green Team, and the Creeper. I mean,
yeah,
not mentioned anywhere in that text, but clearly Dr. Fate is on the cover.
It's a very nice cover as well.
They're just trying to go, hey, you want to read a Tom King book, right? To me. Like they're desperate for me to try.
Sure, yeah. That's what they were thinking, just a Connor when they were trying to build this.
I think they were, because nothing else there. Like, sure, I could probably just skip this. And then they throw Dr. Fate on the cover. I'm like, damn it, maybe I need to check it out.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing where like King's just earned enough cred with these series now. I don't care who's in it.
Yep.
it's just I'm in.
Well, this feels like it was made just for me. Like all these obscure characters, and he's been posting like old covers of like the Green Team, which is a team of kid billionaires, and Lady Cop, which of course is a lady that's also a cop. And it's just like he's going through the archives and just almost like he challenged himself. Like, give me a bunch of obscure characters and I will make a story out of it. And he's always been teasing like his dream scenario for the Justice League, and he had put up like these action figures, and one of them was Starman. But it's the alien one, Prince Gavin? I think. I'm looking at right now. So yeah, just completely weird.
And the variant's Dr. Fate as well, taking off the helmet. So yeah, definitely some Dr. Fate in here. I mean, I love the cover. I'm all for Tom King taking these smaller, obscure characters, and I mean, obviously some are more obscure than others, but I'm all for him taking them and sort of like giving them these prestige platforms where like this may become the definitive version of some of these for a lot of people because they're in like a prestige story. So
yeah, it's again for me, his here at the end, it's like a multi-layered crime drama, which tells me, okay, this is Tom King doing Tom King, right? Means it's hard to want to read it now for me. I get, like, for his audience, like you guys, like that's like, okay, perfect.
I mean, and this is Fornes. This is the Rorschach team.
They had me at King and Fornes. I didn't even care what else it was about. Like I didn't even know what the full story was about until right now.
This could be a Jason Todd book, and me and Matt would be all in anyway.
No, I get it. I get the appeal. Like, if you're into King and Fornes, obviously is fantastic. I have nothing bad to say about Fornes. I want to make that clear.
That's not what Connor said before we started recording. Called him a chump.
I mean, he might be a bit of a chump. Who knows?
Said his art was
I didn't say that
of barely a Tom King level. That's what he said.
I am on record praising Fornes multiple times. I'm fine. But yeah. I mean, we'll see if I try it or not. See how busy it is the week it comes out. Or basically, if I'm at work that week and I'm not on the show, the chances of me catching up after are very slim.
Next up, we got Blood Syndicate Season 1, Issue 1 by Jeffrey Thorne, art by Chris Cross and John Castro. So this is a Maelstrom book, I assume?
Yeah, it looks like.
Yeah, okay. I can't say I'll probably try, especially since Thorne has done Green Lantern, which I have dropped.
I saw the first time on Twitter people not liking Green Lantern outside of us. So, yeah, it feels nice to know it's not just us.
Well, I think it's more damning that there's just very few people even talking about it. Never mind saying they don't like it. So
I remember someone, maybe it was yesterday, someone pointing out that at its height there was like 6 ongoing Green Lantern books, right? Which was the same amount as ongoing Bat books at that time. And now there's barely one to fit this entire galaxy of characters.
Most of the New 52 had 4 books going at a time. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
which admittedly I do think was a little bit much, and probably why it burned out a little bit. I think before New 52, when it was like 2 or 3, I think was just about right.
Yeah,
I think you can handle Green Lantern Corps, and then a third like mini that rotates through various things is probably what the book, what that corner of the universe can comfortably handle and sell. I would assume.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, just thought it was interesting too how far it's fallen, since. And I do. I missed that corner of the DCU.
Yeah, Duo Issue 1 by Greg Pak, which I do love Greg Pak as a writer, so that name sticks out here. Art by Koi Pham and Scott Hanna. That's another Milestone new book.
I think the interesting thing for me is they're calling it Earth M for Milestone stuff now.
It's interesting.
As of this book, so kind of going, hey, no, this is just where all this stuff exists.
And that's cool. I like that in the multiverse you can do something like that.
Yeah. It's introducing 2 thrilling new superheroes in the body of one. That's where the title comes from.
So very, very Firestorm, very Shazam.
So
yeah.
See, then it's telling us about the Static Season 1 hardcover. So obviously that stuff's starting to be collected now, which is nice. And then of course we have stuff we knew about, which is Justice League Road to Dark Crisis Issue 1, the one shot leading into the event, which we didn't know about. That's coming.
Did we know there was that many stories, like that much, big teams on this?
I mean, I think we knew it was going to be like a collection of stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if we know the exact list of names, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, but these are all big names, right? Not big names, but these are like the main names writing current books. You have E. Williamson's, Jeremy Adams, Brandon Thomas, Chuck Brown, who that one's not ringing a bell, unless that's the Black Manta writer. Stephanie Phillips and Philip Kennedy Johnson all writing. I hate when they do this with the artists, when they just add and more. Yeah. Because then I can't try to pair them. So.
I think sometimes because it's a lot of shorter stories, they don't necessarily have them locked down yet. So
that could be too.
They still haven't done it yet. But yeah, you got the Flash writer in there, you got the Superman, the Action, I should say, writer in there. So yeah, there's obviously people who are tied to stuff that's going on that are contributing.
Brandon Thomas is he the one that's been doing?
He's been doing the Teen Titans Academy.
That's Tim
stuff.
Sheridan, isn't it?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Tim
that's
Sheridan.
he's
Tim
he's
Sheridan.
the
Yeah.
Aquaman and Aqualad.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Aquaman
He's the
stuff.
Aqua coroner of the world.
Yeah.
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 Okay. And then of course Dark Crisis Free Comic Day special as well, which we knew about. Yeah, makes sense.
Interesting to see Wonder Girl on there.
Yeah, well, it's got, and it also has the other Batman. What's his Tim Fox
Oh yeah.
there? So,
Yeah. Well, when we talked about the idea of legacy, it's it's the idea that this is like 3 new versions of the Trinity, and we talked about the other covers when we talked about this either last week or the week before. So very cool. And then we have Galaxy: The Prettiest Star Free Comic Day Special Edition. I assume it's a tease for one of those young adult graphic novels that they're doing.
It is,
Mhm.
yeah.
And similar vein, DC League of Super Pets Free Comic Day Special. It makes sense. A lot of the free stuff is appealing to the younger audience to try and hook them in.
It does, and this one is obviously an excerpt for a graphic novel as well, but the graphic novel is a sequel to the upcoming
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
And this is written by Heath Corson, who did that Bizarro book that I really love.
Oh,
With
is that
him
who
and
that was?
yeah, so this at least will probably be. I'll probably pick this up on Free Comic Book Day.
I mean, it'll be free, so why not, right?
Yeah.
Zatanna, the Jewel of Gravesend. So this is one of these young adult graphic novels.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Yeah. Then we have a Black Adam: Rise and Fall of an Empire. This is a collection of something.
It's the Black Adam issues from 52.
Yeah.
Really? That's what it is? It's just the Black Adam stories?
Yeah, which sign me up, because that was good until the whole World War III mini event.
I mean, I would still recommend people just read 52, but
I would as well. There's a few Black Adam trades here because there's a Black Adam movie coming.
well, obviously, yeah. There's no denying why they're doing this.
Connor, how'd you feel about Fate?
I didn't watch the full thing. I just saw like that snippet. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Fitz Brosnan's gonna kill his Fate.
Yes.
I didn't see it. I haven't seen anything from the Super Bowls ads.
I haven't watched anything else. I just saw that because I was like, I want to see Fate.
Yeah. Black Adam: The Dark Age New Edition, so they're reprinting that. And then we got Black Adam GSA Black Rain, so they're reprinting that, which is just a story from GSA and Hawkman.
Yep,
it's a good story.
Stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's obviously I get why they're promoting Black Adam specific stuff, but there's a couple of things here that, like, yeah, I mean, these are cool, but like I'd recommend just reading the whole thing rather than just that specific little snippet.
Yeah,
but,
if it gets someone into a comic shop, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's good to have on hand. Just like, here, you like the movie? Here's this. Oh,
Yeah. So the Batman '89 trade is there. Detective Comics Volume 2 Fear State is there. So I guess they started Volume 1 again when Tamaki's run took over.
Yeah. I think DC have been doing that for a while with their numberings, where they kind of, for the trades, they tend to restart the numbering with.
Not with all of
themes.
them, because I'm pretty sure I saw from later in the solicits, I saw it on Twitter, like the next volume of Flash is like Volume 16, and it's the Return of Wally West. So they haven't renumbered that one.
Okay, that's a strange choice. I know they've been doing it with a lot. So they did it with Batgirl. I know that. I know they did it with Batman recently, like when that jumped over.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there's at least one example that I saw that is they're letting the numbers go wild for whatever reason.
No consistency.
The Sandman Universe Nightmare Country issue 2. This is Tynan again.
Yeah.
Just to remind
Looks
you
like
what
Christian
this is.
Ward's the guest artist this time, which is exciting for me. Big fan.
Sure. So it's got a nice cover. Can't deny the face coming out of the closet. Good stuff. Fables 151.
Yes, picking up exactly where it left off. God knows how
That's
many years
right.
ago at this point.
And if I remember correctly, 150 was like a full graphic novel, right? When they finished it originally.
It might well have been that long, yeah.
I feel like that was the thing was like, the last issue was actually just a full trade on its own. But yeah, so if you're a Fables fan, I'm sure you're pumped for more Fables.
It's back for at least 12 issues, judging by this story is part 1 of 12. But it's not a mini. It's straight up just continuing. So, but we'll see if it continues after that.
I mean, it could just be the 12 issues, and then maybe he could take another few years off and come back when he's got another 12 issue story in him. It's
depends how it sells, I suppose.
It's basically it's becoming the Curb Your Enthusiasm model. There's another season when Larry David's thought of another
Yeah.
batch of stories to tell.
Who is this lady with the bear?
What?
So I was clicking through the other covers, and there's a lady with an arrow, or the bow and arrow, and a bear. Is she the bear?
Well, it's the same lady as the front cover who.
Yeah.
It's got a bit of an Indiana Jones hat almost thing going.
A little.
Yeah, there's a bit of an adventure vibe to her.
Yeah, it's a bit Robin Hood-esque as well, right? With the cause in green.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it was like Indiana Jones and Green Arrow had a girl that was ginger. And in a lot of ways, this is Matt's perfect woman. Not actually, now that I'm really thinking about it. All right, so out of the rest of the singles, then Action Comics 1043. Not much to say really. Obviously, the ongoing books are straightforward enough.
Yeah,
we can oogle at some covers, perhaps. That second cover with him over the earth is pretty. Aquaman issue 4, that's still ongoing. Batgirls issue 6.
Yeah. I missed last week. Are we all out on Batgirls?
It's definitely not.
I'm still reading for now.
Okay. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
I like that second cover with Cass on the bus. That's a really nice cover, actually.
Yeah. Just before we move on, Matt was right. Chuck Brown, who was on the whichever issue had
Black Manta.
Yeah, is on the Aquaman book as well.
Okay.
So those two books are fused.
Yeah.
Okay. Batman Beyond New Year issue 2. This is the Kelly and Lansing Batman Beyond book. Batman Beyond the White Knight issue 3, so that's still going. Batman Killing Time issue 3. This is the 6-issue Tom King mini that, based on his recent Batman work, I'm not super excited about. But
Oh yeah, that was a rough Batcat issue. For sure.
Yeah, I was pretty mixed on it as well, Matt, last week.
Yeah.
It was.
It's got a Smallwood cover though, so like that's cool.
I mean, it's a very nice cover. Yeah, I mean, even the main cover's quite nice as well. I mean, they're both very pretty covers.
I mean, I'll probably be checking this out. It's King and Marquez, but I don't know. Like maybe this is a little bit more traditional Batman. So
I think that's how he was selling it. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we should be close to issue 1 by now. So
yeah,
hopefully it turns out to be a fun book. Batman the Night issue 5. So obviously we'll talk about issue 2 a little bit later in the show. So stay tuned for that. Batman Urban Legends issue 15. It's impressive that this big, 60+ page expensive book is still going 15 issues in.
Yeah, I mean, it helps though too that it seems like there's a full rotation going on where they're just putting in these stories, so it keeps it fresh.
It kind of feels like a spiritual successor to something like Legends of the Dark Knight. Except this is more of a Bat family. it doesn't have to specifically just be Batman.
It's a testament to what we were saying earlier about Batman just being a really reliable seller. Is that this like, I don't feel like you could do this with any other family in DCU and have it last beyond 6 issues. I don't think they'd sell enough.
Yeah, no, because it is so deep. Like, it's a deep roster to pull from.
But where else are you going to put a story about Batman teaming up with Plastic Man against the Penguin and KG Beast?
That's very true. It's very true.
And that is a story that the world needs.
Batman, Superman.
That might be the Joey Esposito.
That's what I was going to say. That's very Joey Esposito. And then I looked up and there he is. Good for him.
Yeah. He's actually in a DC book. Batman, Superman, World's Finest issue 3. This is the Wade and Dan Mora book. Super excited for this.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, I know.
Is that Superman Blue that they're doing?
Yeah.
It does look like Superman Blue on the cover. No denying that.
Oh no! Don't look at the third cover.
Oh, I have to now. But this is
don't.
This is set in the past though, so I wonder if this is. I don't know what's going on here. Oh well, we'll find out. For those of you that are not looking at these, the Batman Who Laughs appears to be on that cover, but we'll see what that means. It may not mean anything. Sometimes covers just have shit on them.
True.
Next up, Catwoman issue 43. So that's still going. You got Catwoman and Harley on roller skates on the cover.
I do really like that cover.
Yeah.
I actually like all the covers for this. Some good covers.
I'm not surprised. Detective Comics 1060. Still Tamaki on this. I'm quite happy about that.
Keeping the co-writer as well, though.
Yeah, Shamas. Another name from that DC special, or from
yeah. Which is someone who I'm unfamiliar with, except that I have upcoming graphic novel Squire pre-ordered and have been for months since I saw it at Thought Bubble, which because it was a fantasy, urban fantasy magic night thing. I was like, cool, looks cool. I'll pre-order it.
Yeah. Did we establish for sure last time that it was a co-writer and not a backup writer?
There's no mention of a backup story.
Oh, that means there isn't one necessarily.
No, it says backup written by Sina Grace, backup art by Dave Lapham.
Oh, there you go.
This is a co-writer. I like Riddler's cool new facial hair.
Yeah, Riddler on the cover has got a beard.
Better than that Gimp mask from.
I actually really like the second cover. It's this the.
I thought he was going to say he realized the Gimp mask.
No,
me too. Me too.
The question mark on the bat
spray paint
logo, yeah, or on his chest, I should say.
Yeah, he NWO'd him.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and obviously the Behermo cover is pretty solid,
gorgeous as always.
Yeah. Yes. There's nothing wrong with the Gimp mask.
That's how you know he does pro Gimp mask.
If Tarantino could put a Gimp in Pulp Fiction, then Matt Reeves can put a Gimp in the Batman. That's the gauge. Future State Gotham issue 13, that's still going. So cool. We got Harley Quinn issue 15. I'm sure Connor can't wait.
How, I try not to talk ill of people, but is it just me or is Rosmo's art just getting more out there? The lines just keep getting longer and the proportions are off.
What a critique of an artist. The lines just keep getting longer.
Look at her cape. Look at Batwoman's cape. Her mask. It's just it used to start as oh, this is just a style. It's over exaggerated. Now it's over exaggerated.
Do you know what I think partly I hate about Rosmo's art, particularly in the way he draws the human figure, is that Batwoman there looks like she belongs in A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
And I like Nightmare Before Christmas, but I agree. I don't like it.
Yeah.
There's a time for that style and there's a time for not. And it worked in Martian Manhunter because of all the shape-shifty kind of weird stuff he could do. But here, I don't get it. And if you like it, cool. I'm not here to argue. Taste is subjective, but it's just not for me.
My feelings are well documented.
Yes.
I Am Batman issue 9. So there you go. Justice League versus Legion of Superheroes, Matt's upcoming favorite. From Bendis.
I kind of want to read it, but I don't want to get fooled. I don't. It's. I like Scott Godlewski as an artist, but Bendis has burned me for the last 2 years.
Looney Tunes issue 266. We get Mad Magazine issue 26. Monkey Prince issue 4. Not much to say, but it's...
he's got his head back. That's good.
I mean, yes. Naomi season 2 issue 3. I'm hopeful. I am hopeful for this one because I did like season 1 of Naomi.
Yeah. Did you watch I saw the first episode was on, I think, last night. Were you aware it was dropping already?
I think it started longer than that ago. It started in January.
I might have seen a repeat.
Yeah.
Oh shoot! So maybe what I saw last night was a special airing.
It was on late. It's at least a few in because I remember them. It was January 14th or something that premiered.
Yeah, because when I clicked on it, it said pilot last night, so maybe it's just a special airing. But yeah.
No, I haven't seen any of it. The pilot didn't rank high in the Patreon voting for what pilots to try in January, so I never checked that out.
If I hear good things from you guys, I'll give it a whirl. I'm slowly getting through Superman and Lois still.
Yeah, I haven't even watched that in a few weeks. They did pull an interesting swerve a few episodes out of season 2, which is where I left off.
That's cool.
That's just, and you know what's funny is the swerve, which I won't spoil, but the swerve is kind of more for people who, like us, who would think they get something because of what they're teasing, and then they go, no.
I did see what this was, and it's very reminiscent of something they did in the first season, though.
It kind of is, yeah. This to me felt even more, because I think the first season one where they tease like a Luthor and then it turns out to be something. I feel like that because they just say Luthor, like casuals know who Luther is, so like they get swerved too. I feel like this was like, no, they're hinting at something that only nerds who know the comics.
Damn it.
No.
Well, when we take a break, let me know.
Okay.
It'll be forever, and I don't want you to spoil the fair listeners.
Okay. So yeah, Naomi season 2. Nightwing issue 92. Yeah, I was to say. So
I love that Taylor is taking his time here with stuff. Like, Heartless is still going on. It looks like Blockbuster and him are facing off. So
Yeah, that stuff will be going like a good solid year by that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, and all nice covers as well. You got the Campbell covers, really nice. You got Jen Bartel cover.
There's a Bartel cover.
Yeah,
I need it.
Oh, I need that Bartel cover because they're having dinner and it's the entire family. Well, I usually say Dick's side of the family.
It's all the Batgirls with
yeah,
Dick.
and his sister.
His sister, yeah.
That's a good cover. Jen Bartel just keeps giving back.
Oh, does this mean we're getting spoiler in Cass and Nightwing at some point?
Well, good. I can still read characters that I enjoy.
I'm going to say maybe, but probably not, because it says AAPI variant, which I don't know what that stands for, but it means it's a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for Asian American Pacific Islander.
There you go.
Yep.
So I would say it probably has absolutely no bearing on what's in the book.
Okay. Yeah, they are eating Asian food. That's the theme of the meal. So.
It's good that we just didn't assume that based off of that, though. That's good on us.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't. I'm just pointing that out because now you said that's what the theme is.
I learned that acronym last year for the special that they released with all of that's where Monkey Prince came from and all that. So, but
it's not an acronym I come across very often.
No.
So next up, One Star Squadron issue 6.
Gotta get caught up on that.
Rogues issue 3, which I'm really looking forward to starting that. That's the Black Label Williamson, the Rogues, the Flash Rogues story.
Yeah. What ring is Gorilla Grodd wearing? Is that just a blamed out ring?
I think so. I think it goes with the suit he's wearing.
Yeah, he's got a pinstripe suit on.
It. Yeah.
He looks very pimpin', doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Gorilla Grodd goes Huggy Bear.
Suicide Squad issue 15.
Which is a final issue.
Yeah.
It's quite right. Not the only one we're about to run into either. Superman Son of Kal-El issue 11. So that's still going. That's
like the Rising or there.
Yeah. Notably not a final issue, just for the record. I didn't mean the next one was final. Just there's another one coming up. Swamp Thing Green Hell issue 3. Really spreading those out, but issue 1 was great, so I will read, I will love. Thank you.
I mentioned Animal Woman here.
So I'm wondering if that's Maxine.
I'm betting it is, but I mean.
Well, I mean, how far in the future are we? Because remember, it was.
That's Old Man Constantine, isn't it?
So. Yeah, we're pretty far in the future.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So even if it is Maxine, I expect her to be quite old at this point. Not just an adult, but like in her later years.
Right. No, that makes sense. Connor pointed out Old Man Constantine, which that book came out a minute ago, and was a piece.
I think it's probably 30 or 40 years ahead of current time.
That's fair.
Again, really just a rough guess, but yeah.
And that's assuming Constantine's not using some magic or something to keep alive.
That is true.
One, and she has ties to the red, right? So she could always, a little bit different.
Oh yeah. Task Force Z issue 8. So.
Bane finally got his chair, and it doesn't fit.
That's a pretty funny cover. I'll give you that. I actually kind of like the other cover as well. The Red Hood mask on the floor.
Yeah.
With the Red Hood sort of standing there in silhouette.
I still can't get over how DC's made me want to read Jason Todd. I can't I like this book a whole lot, right? And just I look at that. I used to look at a Red Hood image and cringe. And now I look at it and go, oh, wow. Something I look forward to. It's just weird.
Teen Titans Academy issue 15. And this is the other final issue. So, I mean, obviously these books that are final issues are not ones we are reading because we didn't like them. So, no.
If anything, I'm selfishly a little bit glad because it means that maybe we'll get a Teen Titans book I do care about.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, Suicide Squad I can, take it or leave it. If they give me a good one, sure, I'll read it. But I'm not like, oh, I need one. But I would really like a nice Titans book.
it's been a while since we've read a Titans book that we liked, right?
And
Like,
there's also that. I think the other side of that, there was a little bit of worry. Is like, well, what are they going to put these writers on now? If they do, they may not, but they may put these writers on something else.
I would
which is
say they're
concerning.
definitely putting. No, actually, no. These aren't on any of those books, are they?
No,
now
no.
Sheridan was doing something with Shazam, right? In Academy.
Yeah,
So
that was
hopefully
tying.
that frees
He had
up.
the Shazam mini that was tying in.
Yeah,
with
but
the
that's
Venom.
done now, I think.
No,
Right?
I know, but hopefully that frees up Shazam, and he doesn't just get a Shazam book.
Well, we know
sure.
we've got the Shazam like Mary Marvel book coming later in the year by Shayna.
Yeah, Shaner confirmed that it's still happening. He just got moved for whatever reason, but he said that it should come out seamlessly once it's out. He's working really hard.
Yeah, because he was working for it for when it was originally scheduled, and then
Right.
they moved it after it was announced because they wanted to be
Yep.
closer, I think, to. I don't know if they wanted it to be near the Black Adam movie or if they wanted to be near to the next Shazam movie.
Yeah, because Jam 2's might be like the end of the year or something, right?
Yeah, so it moved. He assured that it's still happening, and then someone said he says if someone asks where's Billy, I'm going to draw him dying in the worst way possible. So then Mitch Gerrits went, "Where's Billy?"
Yeah.
Their friendship is one of my favorite things on Twitter. It's entirely too wholesome. And he referred to Shaner as Dr. Shaner. I forget what the thing was. It says name a doctor more iconic than so and so, and he said Dr. Shaner. And I just
I think it was a doctor you trust more than.
Yeah,
someone.
there you go.
I don't remember what the fictional doctor was, but yeah.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, so that hopefully we start Shazam. I missed Shazam. As wonky as that John's one ended up, it's much like Green Lantern. I miss that section.
The Flash 782, Jeremy Adams still in the book, and they're doing Rogue stuff, which is cool.
Man.
So we'll see. We'll see what we do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Nicest in the Lake issue 9. Obviously, we're super pumped for that to come back.
Yeah.
That's a really sad, depressing looking cover.
God, I hope that's not blood.
It looks like blood. It's definitely blood, but
I hope it's a plumbing problem.
Also, that's this poor bastard in the towel. He has that look in his face. Is like, I messed up, guys. I'm sorry.
That's the. I tried to flush something I shouldn't
have. Swamp Thing issue 13. Ram V continuing to get us to number 16, of course. So that's cool.
That's a hell of a variant as well.
Oh yeah, that from Anand RK.
No, I think that's the EM Gist one.
That's the EM Gist one. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very nice though. Regardless, Wonder Woman 787. So this is kind of it coming out of Trial of the Amazon. So May's when the book finally becomes free again.
Yeah, and it seems like this is when we're starting to dive into the stuff from that annual with the guy that used to live on Themyscira.
And I'm glad actually, because I like that annual. I like what that set up. So even if I end up skipping Trial of the Amazons, I think May will be a good jumping back on.
I'm also cautiously optimistic about that in the sense that even if Trial of the Amazons is not for us, let's be generous and say it that way. This feels like this is still playing off of things that we set up that we have read that's from before, so we should be okay to jump back in.
And even I won't mention anything in it, but like even this issue of Wonder Woman that we're going to talk about today, which is the last issue before the Trial of the Amazon stuff starts, it did kind of feel like even something someone says at the end is like, she can go off on her trip, but we'll prepare for her return. It almost felt like you could jump off this right now and just come back
if you would like.
Yeah. So
I wish more writers did that, and that's not to say I'm advocating for events that I don't want to read, because clearly I want to read good events and crossovers. But working in this mechanism for your story, where if you're not going to read all these other books because maybe you only read Wonder Woman, which I'm sure that's the tentpole book out of the Wonder Woman family. I'm sure there are a lot of people who only do that. Suddenly you've got a lot more books to pick up, and maybe that doesn't fit your budget.
Yeah. No, it makes sense, and especially I think in this case where the crossover isn't all being spearheaded by the Wonder Woman team themselves, so I think they, in some level, also feel like, well, this is a bit of a tangent to our run, so we're going to treat it. I mean, not disrespect the crossover, but we're going to treat it like no. Some people will leave and come back, and just continue with our run. So we kind of have to treat it as a bit of a diversion for a little bit. which works in the sense that, you know, if you are just reading Wonder Woman, it should be relatively seamless. I'm sure, I mean, she's going to reference that stuff's went down, I'm sure. Like, it's not going to just ignore it, but...
Editor's notes should have you covered, though.
Yeah, so...
Or just look at Wikipedia.
So I'll say right here, the one thing that kind of bothers me about this is that there's 3 artists for a single issue.
Sure.
So, and as much as, you know, Lupacchino is one of my favorites.
Well, isn't one of these for the backup, presumably?
Again, there's no mention of a backup.
But it could
He's
be,
oversized, but...
Yeah, it's 40 pages.
Well, they've all had backups recently. I mean, Wonder Woman's had backups for ages, so I'm assuming there is one.
Yeah.
It's got an extra writer with Jordie Bellaire, so it doesn't mention that she's doing a backup.
But Bellaire was doing the young Diana stuff that I skipped.
Was she?
Yeah, with the kangaroo.
Yeah, I remember that. So I just don't remember that being Bellaire.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Lupacchino, though, hopefully Lupacchino gets the lion's share of the art, because that'd be nice.
Yep.
Wonder Woman Evolution issue 7. This is the Stephanie Phillips book. So that's going. World of Krypton issue 6, which does have a very nice cover. I mean, obviously I didn't like that first issue.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, Supergirl holding baby Kal-El, presumably there. Very, very nice cover. So
controversial, but I really don't like that cover.
Really?
I don't like the weird layering effect. Like, there's
you
like
like the fire?
There's a depth of field effect, but it feels really jarring and just like it feels like I can feel the layers in Photoshop being just stuck on top of each other. It doesn't feel.
I hate you for bringing that up because I love the cover, and I'll just focus on Kara and Cal, so then I don't notice that.
I can just see the outline around them where they've just been pasted on top of a background image. That's like how it looks to me.
Okay.
Sorry.
So there you go. That is the single issues. They're reprinting the 52 omnibus. So as I said earlier, read 52.
You need to give someone a head injury? Hit him with this.
Yeah, so you can also murder someone with it if you really want to. Absolute Swamp Thing by Len Wein and Bernie Wrighton. Or Wrightson, sorry.
Pretty kill someone with that as well. Absolute Things are monsters.
Oh yeah. The episodes are huge. I do prefer the size in terms of like height of an omnibus versus an absolute, though. I think absolutes are maybe a bit too sizable.
More unwieldy to read, but oh my god, they are gorgeous in terms of just the actual like the art on them.
The larger pages.
Yeah, it pops. I don't have any. I don't actually have any absolutes, but I've got a couple of the Dark Horse Library editions, which are the same size, and they're just once you get set up with them, they're an absolute joy to read because the art just looks phenomenal.
Batman Adventure Continues Season 2 trade. Makes sense. They're doing a Batman Court of Owls trade with a mask.
They've done it before. They're just reselling it.
Batman the Deluxe Edition Book 6. So this is actually the Volume 6 of the Rebirth Deluxes. So they're finally doing the last part of Tom King's run in Deluxe. So if you've been waiting for it, if you've had Volumes 1 through 5, and you've been waiting for that last part to come out in the Deluxe hardcover, you're finally getting it. Admittedly, yeah, it's not the best. And notably, it's a little bit bigger because this is the final volume of his run. So I think they made it a little bit bigger just so they could get to the end because it's like almost 500 pages.
Yeah, they're typically 4 trades, though, aren't they?
No, typically
2 trades.
Just 2, yeah. They're mostly just about 300 pages, 350. So this is notably about 50% extra at least. And I think that's just because it wouldn't fit neatly into like another, deluxe of the same size. So, but that wraps it up. So at least people can be completionists. Although, I don't know, they're guilty of this many a times. But like the photos I saw of the spines of these like upset me.
They changed them halfway through.
The first 4, I think, are like
the white with the blue dress.
Yeah.
And
then the 5th one's like the black background instead. It's a black spine.
Why do they do
you can
that?
Actually see them on my camera. Just these there. That's some Rebirth Deluxe ones, earlier ones.
So yes, they changed the trade dress, which is upsetting for a multitude of reasons. They did another Gil Simone Birds of Prey collection. This is I think the 2nd one of her run, maybe 3rd. I don't know. They're not numbered, so I can't tell.
I need to pick these up. Like, forgot how much I like this.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Bendis' Checkmate trade, the 2nd Green Lantern trade from the current run coming out. Justice League Dark, the Ram V backups and all that all have been collected.
Yep, I'll have to get that.
I'll be grabbing that.
Yeah, the Great Wickedness.
Justice League Infinity, which obviously was a miniseries that was coming out, as was Justice League Last Ride. That's getting collected. So all done. Nightwing Fear State, which is obviously the Nightwing issues that tied into Fear State, along with the Nightwing annual.
Mm-hmm.
And a Nightwing Batgirl story from Urban Legends.
Yes. So this is kind of a weird collection in that it's like kind of throwing together a few other one and done things to go with the Fear State issues, because obviously the Fear State issues aren't enough for a trade on their own, but they also
don't fit neatly into the other trades.
So this, I mean, so technically speaking, like this is not being billed as like the next volume of Taylor's run, but I would still recommend reading it with Taylor's run because there's still some character development with Dick and Babs in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, it's just worth mentioning. We're getting a Superman Golden Age Omnibus Volume 7. It's nice that they're still going with those.
Just reading through that, it says, plus Superman becomes a super cowboy and meets a mighty caveman. The Golden Age is great.
I think what's nice about this is honestly just that it's kind of like a consistent format where they've got a reason to like remaster the old issues and digitize them eventually and all the rest of it. It just means the material's being touched up, which is nice. And is more readily available, even if the Golden Age isn't necessarily everyone's most exciting period to go and read because it's very dated in its writing style. But
it's good for historical purposes, though.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, every issue of Superman, Action, Batman, Detective, and everything else should all be available. Like all of it. Nothing should be.
In a perfect world, everything would be. Yeah. At the very least, everything would be digitized to a higher quality. Yes. So, but I mean, I know that's a lot to ask for with smaller characters, but that's the ideal.
We're getting there, right? One step at a time. Obviously, they're going to do the big characters first. Just makes sense. Tales with DC Dark Multiverse 2.
So I read all of these, and I don't remember part 2.
I tapped out after.
I don't think. I don't think we read all the second batch. At least I certainly didn't.
Yeah, I did. Maybe Matt did.
And I don't remember these, so I'm going back and looking because of some of the names.
Yeah.
Is that Alan Scott as Azrael? Kind of.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to remember. Where was that?
Wasn't this ages? I feel like this was ages ago. Why is this only coming out
now? I wonder if it got a hardcover release first, and this is a softcover.
So that was the Crisis on Infinite Earths one. That's the Justice Society and All Star Squadron. But we're outmatched by Surtur. Alan Scott. Maybe I didn't read that one.
Yeah, my assumption is maybe it got a hardcover release like a year ago, and this is the paperback.
Very possibly.
Did I read the Hush one? Because that's Philip Kennedy Johnson. I might have to go back and grab that just to have in the collection.
Then we got the Flash Volume 16, Wally West Returns, as I mentioned. So, cool. Matt's just been reading all that because Matt's caught up now. And that's actually the end of the solicits. That's the last thing. There you go. The May solicits. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the 2 or 3 new books that they've announced for May actually all sound good in different ways. Tom King Black Label book, obviously great for most of us. Jurassic League sounds like a fun, wacky, extra thing. And then the Ram v Aquaman horror book, like, yes. God, yes. Like, all those things are...
That's easily, for me, the most exciting of the 3. But I don't think that really would have surprised anyone if people had to guess which one I was going to pick.
It's pretty close with the Ram v and Tom King, but I think Tom King's prestigious 12-issue books do take a bit of an edge for me right now, but obviously I'm loving Ram v as well, so it's all good stuff. Jurassic League's definitely the 3rd choice for me, but I'm sure it's going to be fun. It seems like a fun time. And of course, Matt's like, no, that's number 1. Justice League Dinosaurs are always number 1.
I mean, all 3 are they get right, but that one... Yes. Especially because I won't believe it's actually happening until I have it in my hands.
Yeah. And then Batman Fortress is a bit more of a question mark. But hey, we'll give it a shot, see how it is. But hey. Cool, there you go, as solicits. As much as it should be time to talk about the books, I feel like we have to talk a little bit about the Comixology's demise.
I tried talking about it for the last few weeks.
Because I knew we were going to talk about it this week, and I was sick of hearing about it.
I wanted to warn people. I wanted to be prepared.
But like, not everything that was expected happened. Like, nothing surprised. Like, for whatever you want to say about this transition this week, nothing about it was surprising. Nothing.
I mean, it would have been surprising if you weren't in the loop.
Yeah, but you
Also, I found out exactly why Amazon decided to do this. Because I did some digging during the week just because I was interested.
They hate us.
I mean, it comes down to money. They make significantly more money when books are purchased through Amazon Kindle than they did through Comixology.
And you can't just reroute it?
No, because when they bought Comixology, they inherited the deals that were in there. Books purchased through Comixology had a 50% split, with 50% to Comixology and 50% to the publisher. Through all books through Amazon Kindle are 65-35 in favor of Amazon. And on top of that, because it's based off their books, there's an extra 15 cents on every royalty payment per megabyte of the file size that you have to pay Amazon, which in textbooks is not that much, but obviously in high-res image comics stacks up pretty quickly. So, like, just to run just some really basic numbers, Batman, that sells what? Between 90 and 100K physically, we know, give or take, every issue.
Something like that, yeah.
If we be generous and say it sells a third of that, and so it sells 30K copies at $4 a copy, which it's mostly $5 now, I think, anyway, but even at $4 a copy of that, at 30,000, their cut before would have been like 60,000, and now it's going to be closer to 80,000 for one issue of Batman.
It's I think the worrying part of that is more that there's a chance that this could even lead to more increased prices because the publishers have to make their money somehow, and less of it's actually going to them. That is the more concerning part to me, I think. But I will say, there's so much fuss being made of this. There's comic creators who are speaking out against it on Twitter. Patton Oswalt has been complaining about it on Twitter. I don't necessarily believe that Amazon are going to do anything about it. Maybe they'll re-implement features that were missing. Maybe they'll make it a better user experience. I wouldn't hold my breath on that based on their other services, but I do wonder, like, if it leads to some sort of action because they're like the monopoly as it is can't exist. And I think if the publishers aren't happy as well because they're making less money from books, and especially if it hurts their sales because less people are buying books because they're not finding things, then it could lead to some competition of some kind. Now, I don't know if that's just a case of Marvel and DC being the big dogs can just have their own storefronts and just sort of try and convince people to come over to them.
Maybe the problem is they've tried that before and it was just powered by Comixology, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't. Yeah, but I mean, they have the muscle to potentially make a storefront and a reader that would work.
They both individually have the tech because they've got their own respective apps with Infinite and Unlimited. Dark Horse never stopped doing their app, I don't think, but that was always awful.
That was always terrible. I mean, I actively didn't buy Dark Horse comics until they were on Comixology because I tried the app once and it was dreadful.
Someone said that this new update makes them wistful for the days of the Dark Horse app.
Honestly, I wouldn't say that because I do think it's easier to read the comics still on this app than it was the Dark Horse app.
As a web-based reader on the desktop, no, give me the Dark Horse any day.
Well, I'm going based on the app because I will say this: the new Comixology app is not good. It's worse than what was there before, but it's a much better experience app-wise than it is website to buy comics wise. The website used to buy comics is pretty dreadful. I mean, my system this week was I had a list of the comics I needed, and then I individually searched for each comic. That's how I found my comics this week.
Yeah, it's terrible, and I said reading them is even worse. I don't know if you tried to read a comic on the web.
Not on the web, no.
So there is no way of having single pages. So everything's just presented as here's 2 pages at a time, which doesn't sound terrible until you get to a double page, at which point it tries to cram that double page splash into the size of a single page and letterboxes it pretty heavily. And there's no way of zooming. So it's just literally unreadable. It's horrendous.
I will say I was actually surprised because when I was reading, I don't usually use it, but I was curious to see if they actually carried it over. But the panel view does still work. I was shocked, honestly.
It does, although I don't know how. I think you'll probably be fine for your big companies, but as of this now, companies have to, or publishers have to, create that panel by panel guide themselves. Before Comixology's team did it all, like they had an employed team that every comic that was submitted, they went through and manually did it. Now every publisher has to do that themselves, including independent. Like if you want to self-publish a book, you've got to put in that work to do that all yourself. It's a lot more effort than, hey, Comixology, we'll handle it for you. Because that was part of what their service was. Like, with that 50-50 cut, it wasn't just a storefront. It was, you were paying for the, that service as well was part of it. Whereas now Amazon are taking more money and doing less work.
I mean, it's just been gobbled up in the machine. The only good thing I can say is that there's so much fuss from every single corner of the internet right now. Readers, writers, creators, publishers, everyone seems to be unhappy. I mean, the publishers haven't said anything because I feel like they legally don't want to put themselves in, they wouldn't just come out and complain.
They've got contractual agreements and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but I do wonder if behind closed doors, if DC, Marvel, and I mean, I know all the smaller ones are hurting, but I do wonder if the bigger ones are talking about possible contingencies and ways to. I think the big issue, if there is any kind of competition that happens, if there's anything like any new storefront, like, if something crazy happened where Marvel and DC said, look, we can both make our own storefronts, but let's be honest, that leaves all the rest of the industry out in the lurch. So do we do some sort of shared storefront where everyone can sell comics or something like that? Like, if that was even possible, is something like that possible or going to happen? I don't know, but I would certainly hope that behind closed doors they're talking about options. The big concern that they would maybe have though is that so many people have bought so many comics on Comixology that are now tied to the Amazon account. I don't know if there's feasibly any way for them to say, hey, you can you'll have access to everything you've already bought.
Short of them saying we'll give you everything you've bought on that account.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see people migrating over otherwise.
So I don't understand why they can't streamline it to be like the old Comixology.
Because that's too much work, and they don't think it's worth the effort. Is the honest answer?
No, I know, but I don't get it. So I didn't fall into this until Thursday, because up until when I downloaded my books Tuesday and was reading them Wednesday, everything was fine. And I saw people complaining, and then I got super busy at work.
Wednesday night or Thursday morning, they pushed the update out.
Yeah, and it wasn't until Thursday night that I went to go to bed and read. And I got there, and I was mid one of the other books. I can't remember what book I was reading. And I went to go finish it before bed. I think it was Wonder Woman. And it made me merge all my stuff, and then I started, and I couldn't get anything to load at all, because it was downloading all my entire library from the old one, and it was not a good time.
I had a friend who uses Comixology, a reasonable amount. They buy a couple of print comics, but mostly they do stuff on Comixology. They messaged me about 1:00 last night, going, "Hey, Comixology just made me update, and when I logged in, because it made me log in, I don't have any comics anymore." And this is a fairly computer literate guy, works in like that side of that, in a tech industry and stuff, so knows what he's doing. Is like, what just happened? It turns out he'd never linked his Amazon account. And it does not make it clear that you're supposed to merge them. It just, because when the old way of logging in was, hey, log in with a Comixology or with an Amazon account.
Yeah.
This time it just pops up saying log in with your Amazon account. So, didn't question it, just logged in with his Amazon account because that was the only option. And there's nothing there. And there is no option in the app to link to merge those accounts. You have to go and search Amazon support for them to give you a link to go, okay, this is where you go to merge your accounts, and go through the steps that gives you. It's awkward as shit if you didn't do it beforehand. And he was telling me good because he had a bunch of subscriptions, was how he bought his comics. And he goes, well, those are all gone now. I guess I'm not buying digital comics anymore because he's really bad at remembering to buy comics. And obviously, if with subscriptions, it comes out, oh, here's
Right.
£3 a month, whatever it was. It's not a big deal. But if you forget, and now I need 5 issues. Now here's £15-20 at a time over 2 or 3 books. That's a lot at once that ends up. Oh well, I guess I'm not going to pay that now because that's a lot. And yeah,
Mhm.
so that's a customer lost, and that's I'm sure there are a lot of people like it.
I've never seen anything like this that was across the board as panned, and all for the same reason too. It's not just like little nitpicky stuff that I don't like it because it's new. It's like this does not work.
It's objectively just doesn't function to
Right.
purpose. The way
No.
it did.
Right.
Like I say, when you're
Yeah.
actually into the comic, like when you actually open up a comic and start reading,
Yeah.
it's fine on the app.
It does tend
Yeah.
to read a bit slower though. Like the page turns are a
does.
bit more sluggish.
Although I did find looking at the settings, you can adjust that too, at least on the
Yeah.
app.
Although,
Even turned up, it just doesn't swipe as smoothly.
although
Right.
I will say this, I haven't figured out yet how to come out of a comic unless I get to the end of the comic. Because before you just like tapped on the screen, it would come up with a little menu. Do you want to go back? Or...
I think
Mhm.
you just use your back button on your system.
Well, that's what I eventually did, but I felt like there should be a like
No,
an
no, I think that's the
in-comic
only way to do
menu
it
that
now.
pops up. But there was no way of doing it. So apparently there isn't. So that was a bit weird and frustrating. Yeah, it's all just a bit whatever. I mean, the first thing I'd recommend is because it defaults to just showing you every comic individually. Put group by series. That's the first thing you should do. Group by series.
Group by series.
Which
and
we
then,
should say, just to be fair to you, that's not available in every country right now.
Oh my God.
I know it's available in the US and UK,
Yeah.
and I think they said a few others, but that is not available everywhere yet.
Why would that
So-
be? Why would that even be any different? Why is the app different in different places?
Oh, it just is. I don't know. Even the storefront, because it's linked through Amazon dot whatever Amazon you use, and because it's all integrated with the Kindle app now, it's tied to that, which is why the UK Amazon webpage to buy comics looks very bare bones and is unusable, whereas the US page actually looks somewhat like Comixology did. It's yeah, and every country has to have it sorted manually apparently because a multi-billion-dollar international corporation, objectively one of the biggest in the world, can't figure out sorting things out in multiple countries at the same time apparently.
Honestly, the best thing to hope for is competition.
Yep.
Honestly, like it genuinely is the best option, and it's a shit. And I don't blame the original people who own Comixology for selling to Amazon because I'm sure they were offered an amount of money that was.
And they sold like 2013, 2014.
It was a
It's
while
been-
ago. Yeah.
It's been a long time now.
Yeah. Amazon just left it untouched for so long that it kind of felt safe for a while. It was like, yeah, whatever, they just don't care. They've got it, they're earning some money, it's over on the side.
They basically bought it because they wanted the guided view technology, I'm pretty sure, because their version of that in Kindle that they had before was awful. I don't know if you ever tried reading a comic in the old Kindle reader.
Not the old Kindle reader now.
No.
Oh, God. No, unusable. Like, unreadable, unless you could read full pages, and it was sluggish and worse than what this is, but it was functional. But if you tried to do guided view, oh no, that was not.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope there's some competition. I don't know if that is like DC and Marvel doing a shared thing where all the industry can sell comics on it to try and like get it something closer to what Comixology was, and maybe even improve. Because I mean, Comixology obviously it's easy to praise it right now for what it was because it's so much better than what this is. They didn't really improve anything for a long time. Like there could have been improvements to Comixology over time, and they never happened. They just it was stagnant.
Once the Amazon buyout happened,
Yeah.
I think the most recent update was like 3-4 years ago now with the Smart Lists edition.
But it was pretty stagnant, and I feel like you could improve upon what Comixology had, but right now we're just longing for what Comixology was because now what we have is worse.
Yeah.
So
It sucks. I have been forced to read comics on my tablet, which I like. I'm lucky enough that I have a decent tablet that I can read comics on, and I have to for Marvel Unlimited because Marvel Unlimited also doesn't work on a fucking website whatsoever. It will not work. It's even worse than this. You cannot read the books on there. But I prefer to read on the desktop. That's the way I like to read my comics. Is how I read all of my Comixology comics. It was that way, and now I have to go and read on my tablet, which for me is a lesser experience. So it's annoying. It's really annoying.
Yeah. Honestly, like, all I can say is, like, they'll notice if less books are being bought, and the publishers will know right now why less books are being bought if they are. I have to expect that this coming Tuesday, Wednesday is going to look significantly lower in sales to them digitally than this past couple of weeks. Like, I imagine there's going to be a steep drop off, and they're going to know exactly why that is.
I wonder how many they lost just by subscriptions and all the pre-orders being cancelled. Like, just that alone is probably a healthy chunk, right?
Oh, probably. I mean, there's no way to tell, like, how much of it's that and how much of it's just people not wanting to use the store.
Find out next week.
But well, they won't be able to know, though. They won't be able to tell which ones are because of what reason. They won't know.
I think you'll probably see an overlap, though. Like, you'll see some people just didn't come back after that, and they'll be able to see which accounts had subscriptions and then didn't buy any, and then which ones did but took a little bit longer.
But we'll never know.
No, we won't. When I said they'll find out next week, I meant the companies with that data, not us.
So I have to imagine that they want to find a solution to that, whether that's just for them to sort of say, "Hey, Amazon, like, build a better storefront, do something to make this, like, better, because we're actually losing money here."
Do they have any leverage to do that?
They may not. I don't know. Amazon's pretty big. Amazon's much bigger than certainly the comic publishing part. I mean, if it was Warner Brothers and Disney that came in and said, "Hey, do something," maybe, but I don't know if they care enough.
I'd be very shocked if they did. I don't think, like, as much as it's definitely going to be a revenue loss, I don't think it's enough for the big guns at at that highest levels to get involved. I'll be shocked if they did. I'm just still annoyed. Every time I go to read a comic, I'm like, oh, god damn it.
Yes. Okay. But I think we're done talking about this, and I think I'm going to say we're done talking about this in general until there's actually some sort of news on a competitor or Amazon responding or something. Because I feel like it'll be the same, just miserable complaining every time it comes up, if it does come up again.
I mean, if you are that upset about it and you have a shop close, instead of spending it digitally, I know they take up space, but
that's the problem, isn't it? Because it's all well and good saying, "Hey, go back to physical," and obviously some people have, but for a lot of people, that's not a real. No, there's reasons people swap to digital, right?
No, I know that, but like if you like me, like. The reason I started going mostly digital was because of space. But like, if this reading experience keeps being as bad as it is, then they're gonna make me just go back, which my shop, which I'm sure will love, right? Like,
oh yeah, the comic shops right now are rubbing their hands together.
yeah. So like, if you can, but also the thing that got pointed out too is like, this sucks if you don't have a comic shop close and this was your only option. It's like Pete said, the only thing that's gonna change is competition. But where's the competition? It's like the go-to place to read digital comics.
I mean, it's not impossible. I mean, ultimately, this is not about having rights to books. It's just about making a storefront. So it's not impossible there could be competition. It's just that right now, and like I say, the big problem I think any competition is going to have is the people who already have collections that they've bought on Comixology are not going to want to rebuy things, and if they're not going to be able to link things up, and like if they've got the last 200 issues of Batman on their Comixology account linked to Amazon, the thought of buying the next one on a new store where it's not going to be in the same place is
the only little bit of hope for something along that lines of them implementing, having your back catalog available on a new service is, the individual storefronts that Marvel and DC have /had, because DC shut theirs when they launched Infinite. Marvel have still got theirs going, and it still runs on Comixology. It's completely independent of Amazon, other than obviously Amazon owning Comixology, but it doesn't run through the Kindle stuff at all. So you can still buy your Marvel comics and read them through the Marvel app and have the Comixology experience as it was. And those, you can still link that account with your Amazon, and if you ever redeemed a Marvel code, they give out the free digital codes. You had to redeem that through your Marvel account, and then that linked to Amazon to give it to the rest of your Comixology account. So there is still there is a precedence for them having those linked accounts while still running its own service. The only problem was it wouldn't be able to run on Comixology. Of course, it'd have to run on a new system entirely and still link through Amazon.
Yeah, they'd have to offer something where you could they're not link the account to your Amazon account, but they could you could put in your Amazon account and they could check what you own and just give you everything, license to everything on their
that's
service.
That's probably a best case scenario, but that's a lot of work, right? Because that's manual work that has to be done for every single account.
That's the only way you get people to shift over, I think, to a new storefront reliably. And failing that, honestly, just making a premium version of Infinite or whatever, where it's hey, it's $30 a month, but everything's day and date. You'd have to buy a comic again. Just read it this way.
Yeah, which is great for Marvel and DC, right?
Yeah, but it's bad for all the indies and the small.
Bad for literally everyone else. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't expect any imminent news for at least probably the rest of this year.
If something like that happens, maybe Image, IDW, Dark Horse, all the bigger ones are the smaller ones, if that makes sense. Maybe they can team up for a storefront and get all the indies on there.
2000 AD have been very proudly acknowledging, hey, our app still works, our app's still completely independent, and you can have your DRM free downloads of everything we sell. And by all accounts, it's a perfectly functional app. I've not really used it myself, but I know some people who have, and they say it's solid. So maybe they could, maybe they can get involved and help out a little bit.
Yeah. So hopefully something comes of it, but we're in kind of a rough patch. The only thing I can really do is keep track of what comics you want on something like League of Comic Geeks or any sort of pull list website, and you just go and search the titles one by one when you need to go buy them. That's what I had to do this week. And
be vocal and complain to Amazon.
Oh yeah, tag Amazon, tag Comixology on Twitter so that they see it constantly.
But please remember, don't yell at the people on the Comixology support Twitter.
Yeah,
this isn't their fault.
No, yes,
they're all losing their jobs too.
But give them the numbers so they can say, hey, look at the hundreds of thousands of tweets that we're getting constantly.
Hard data from users that are unhappy, and as long as that correlates with sales as well to some extent, it might make a difference.
Of course, like Matt pointed out, his comic shop owner's probably going to have a new photo of Bezos on the wall that he can touch when people walk in. Praise Bezos, praise him. crippling the digital infrastructure from within.
It's amazing how they managed to overnight just decimate an entire digital industry in one swoop.
What's funny is I was toying with physical again right as the pandemic was about to start, and then the pandemic just completely killed any notion of it, because it became impossible for a while. Because unlike some people, I have to have my books on time so I can read them for the show when we record. It has to happen. So the first hint that wasn't going to be possible, it was no, it has to be digital. So I'm just tied to digital seemingly forever, but hey ho. It's an ongoing struggle. We'll see how it goes.
One last thing, a bit of advice for anyone who is in the same situation as me, who uses the web browser. The best workaround I can find: download an Android emulator like BlueStacks, and download the Kindle Comixology app on there. And it's not ideal. It's clunky and it's not great.
Also, I tried to use an Android emulator once, and it gave me some message about how it wouldn't work properly unless it went into my BIOS and changed something. I'm like, okay, it's too much of a headache. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, no, I don't trust that stuff.
Yeah,
okay, I never had to do that with BlueStacks. So
I did. It told me it was BlueStacks I tried to use. Basically, it ran like shit because I had to turn on something.
You didn't have hardware emulation turned on, did you?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not faffing about. Whatever I was trying to do at the time wasn't worth the effort. So, hey ho. There you go. By all means, voice your woes and tag relative parties, and by relative parties I mean the companies, just so that they actually see the complaining. All right, let's get into the books then. Yeah. Luckily, with the solicits and the big topic, it's not a super heavy week. It's 6 books, so let's get into it. Detective Comics 1053, Mariko Tamaki writing with Max Raynor on the art, next part of this tower, and the Uncut Gems comparison I feel just ramped up significantly as Dr. Ware here is trying to borrow more money from Penguin so he can pay off more people, whilst being jumped in the street by the clown party smashers. That's what they're called.
Party crashers.
Yeah. Party crashers. Yes.
Their design's really bugging me because I know they're supposed to be clown-esque, right? And it's joke colors, but with the clunky, the bulky suits, that just reminds me more of Lex suits.
Yep.
And it's really jarring because my brain keeps seeing them and goes, "Oh, that's like Lex knockoff suits." But and then I have to pause and reconfigure my brain every time. I go, "No, they're nothing to do with Lex."
Yeah. No, I was into kind of like more of like the Ware stuff unraveling early on here. It's some of the party crashers. He's bailing them out. He's sending his own lawyer to get them out as he's borrowing money from Penguin. It really does just continue that feeling of everything spiraling out of control as he's desperately trying to hold on.
It stresses me out just like Uncut Gems did. And I cared way more about Sandler's character, right, than I do Ware. But this still, I'm just like, why is he doing this? They can't be worth this amount of headache.
And in the middle of all this, he gets a call saying that one of the nurses or whoever are going to like rat out that like all this is a bullshit and that no one's cured. So he gets a party crasher to go to her house and like threaten her.
And it works. She gets saved by Cass, but she's still too scared to then come forward to Deb after that.
Yeah, and great big panel of Cass swooping in to save her. Actually, I thought proper,
really good,
old school looking Cass Batgirl stuff. So no, yeah, like the first half of the issue is really solid in that, and we have the team talking in their sort of temporary cave. We got Nightwing inside, sort of getting the scoop and trying to figure out what's going on. He's talking
flirting with all the ladies to get the info.
Yes. They're calling him cutie and stuff. Do you know what?
It's very classic Nightwing, though, isn't it?
I laughed hysterically that he puts on like a lab coat, walks into a room, and the nurse just calls him doctor. It just really made me laugh.
Yeah,
because it's not like that's his cover. Because you see him like he's just doing like a
janitor, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing janitor work before, and then he just puts on a lab coat, and all of a sudden someone just assumes he's a doctor, and I'm like,
lab coat and a clipboard does it all.
Yeah. So yeah, he goes to see Nero 19 and tries to figure out how to beat him up, and he actually he's like, these injuries seem consistent with someone I know.
I like that the nurse goes, I think it looks like someone was using him as a bowling ball, and I love that. That's where he goes, okay, I know this work.
Yeah,
and he goes find Helena,
and obviously none of these characters remember the big fight, right, that happened. So he goes to her, and basically when, asking, do you remember a fight? Do you remember anything happening? He notices the blood on the floor, and it leads to that thing we saw at the end of the last issue, which is his hold is breaking, written in blood. The only slight nitpick I have with it is he says it's in her handwriting, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like if I was smearing like a liquid to write something on the floor,
it wouldn't match.
Yeah, it wouldn't be my handwriting, like when I'm writing something with a pen.
Yeah, and I know this from having to sign for stuff at work, and they hand you the digital.
Yeah.
To sign. I've gotten a little bit better, but it still looks like I've had a seizure mid-signature.
Oh yeah, it's like nothing like my actual signature.
I would say having written things in like
blood,
paint, very specifically paint. I made that very clear. It was paint for legal purposes. It was definitely paint.
Not semen.
Oh no!
Oh, had you lowered the tone just like that?
I just wanted Matt's reaction. I knew you'd react to it.
But it's a lot easier to write in your handwriting in paint on a physical thing than it is on those digital screens, because it's the calibration on those screens.
Oh, sure, but so I mean, Matt brought it up as an example, but I would say that having also written things in paint or something similar, I don't feel like when you're writing something that big using your whole hand, it's the same as your actual handwriting. I don't think it is.
I mean, both were unintelligible messes by my standards, so
Yes, but different unintelligible messages, not identical unintelligible
Oh,
messages.
they both just look like a scroll. I can't read my own writing anyway, so what do I know?
Yeah. But either way, I mean, it's like, 'cause a minor nitpick. It was just something that stuck out to me. So I don't feel like it would match her regular handwriting. Unless she does this a lot where she just smears big giant letters.
I wouldn't put it past her. It is Huntress.
She gets bored. And she's like, where's some of that villain blood?
She just leaves messages to the police at the crime scene going, here you go, doing you a favor.
Yeah, but obviously
Good
this is enough. Like, this hold is breaking is enough for them to like jump to the conclusion that there's some mind control or something going on. So Babs is looking up various possible candidates. You see the Sparrow and Gorilla Grodd, and I think that's Maxwell Lord.
Max Lord, yeah.
On the screens.
Mm-hmm.
I also really dig the other villains like taking the piss out of this fake Harley. It's like she's really laying it on thick with trying to fit the word pudding into her sentence.
And the more they're doing this, I'm starting to think, is this actually Harley?
I think so.
Because at first I was willing to just go, that was funny. But now that they're doing this and bringing it back up she doesn't even look like her. I'm like, okay, this is is actually her.
Yeah,
right?
the joke's going to be it's this real Harley pretending to be fake Harley.
Right. So she's laying it on thinking that no one's going to think it's her. And so far it's working. Right?
Yeah. She's basically, she's yelling for some pudding. Like, is there going to be pudding? I want some pudding. Like, that's what she's yelling.
Also, a weird maybe thing with the I don't know if it's the script or the lettering that I would critique here. But if I was to try and sell this as the Harley Quinn, playing up being Harley Quinn, I'd have done pudding with the apostrophe rather than the G.
I think that's the intentional sort of thing, though, right? Is that she's saying it with the G? She's saying
pudding, not pudding.
Maybe, but I don't know. Like if she was playing it up.
Well, that's the point. Though, she's getting it wrong.
Connor, you read the Amanda Conner run, right, of Harley?
I did most of it.
Wasn't there a league of Harleys?
Yes.
So is it possible that she's one of them?
Unlikely. They were more just people who Harley collected and who.
Okay.
It was kind of like the We Are Robin book where there was just like there's a lot of people who were inspired by and kind of took inspiration from. It was kind of like that more than.
So it wasn't people trying to be her.
They were trying to be Harley in the sense of we're going to be kind of carefree and do our own thing. And, the lifestyle ethos of Harley.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And fashion choices, obviously.
But no, I got a chuckle out of it. But this makes Nightwing go up to the roof. Cass is going to join him for backup, although she doesn't ever get there because the Batgirls, Batwoman, and all that are all attacked by some party crashers who have found their hideout. So they're actually under fire as Nightwing finally gets to the office of Dr. Ocean and finds Psycho Pirate. And I kind of love just the Psycho Pirate of effing course. The reaction's great. But of course, like, he's on his own, so Psycho Pirate just starts controlling him and making him feel weak and sleepy and whatever else.
It's kind of his shtick.
Yeah. So, and the rest aren't there to help him. So the cliffhanger, it's quite an effective cliffhanger. Psycho Pirate sort of got his foot on Dick's back and just kind of be like, you're mine, you're weak. So, like, so they're getting somewhere, they're figuring things out, but it's immediately put them in danger. So that's fun stuff. I had a good time. So.
I like this a lot more than the last few. I feel like this really advanced the plot a good chunk, and I feel like, okay, we're actually better paced on this issue than the last few have been for me. Where I was like, okay, we're moving now, and we're propelling into the back half of this story.
Aye, a less whiny opinion, Matt.
I like it.
That was positive.
Moving.
Screw you.
Yeah, it's moving at a clip. I like right now. Everything's coming together, and again, super stressed out with the stuff with Dr. Ware, just because he has so many plates in the air, balls in the air, spinning plates, whatever. I mix my metaphors, but still the same thing. This is gonna, and we know it's gonna end horribly for him. Oh,
sure, yeah. No, I think it's impressive how much of a big cast we have in this story that have all been established now that we can kind of bounce around them, and it's very easy going at this point in the story to shift between them. So yeah, I like some of the things like the party crashers are mad at Ware because they actually think he tipped off the bats because they just don't believe that the bats could have found them on their own. They think someone's talked. So I like those little bits that makes sense, even though we saw how they found them in the first place. So it doesn't feel like forced conflict because it actually does make some sense. Especially since these are characters who are not supposed to be like master criminals necessarily. They're they're capable enough, but they're not like geniuses. So, yeah, no, I'm digging the story. Art's
art's pretty good.
Yeah, art's. It's nice that they've been kind of consistent in these batches of like 4. So this has been very consistent. The Reese stuff was very consistent.
Yeah,
I think credit to the editorial team for getting it out with enough lead time for those artists to be able to do that.
Yeah,
because that's not an easy task to do with a weekly book.
Not at all, no. So, no, really digging the main story. And then the backup, continuing this kid, the ginger kid, who's now back at Arkham. And once again, we're tying into an event in Batman mythology and Batman history, where you don't necessarily get what it is at first. It's like using Arkham, and it could be any random event, because like some voice comes over the comms saying, "Hey, this is breakout day. We've taken control of the security. You can all just leave now." The red light comes on, and the kid doesn't want to leave. Clayface is like, "Well, if you don't want to come, then when you do eventually get out, come find me." And then we see Bane. It's Bane breaking out, everyone out of Arkham, which I believe is actually part of the Nightfall storyline. That was something that happens early on in that. So, again, really neat. We've tied it into the switching of the Robins in the last issue. Here, some time has passed now. We're in Arkham, and now we're at Nightfall. So, which makes me
the
think.
kid seems a little bit older, right? Like,
yeah, especially Elliot when we see him later on. He's definitely older. So. It wouldn't surprise me now if more of these backups are going to like tie into other known events in Batman history, just to sort of give us a timeline.
Well, because in the last one I missed that, right? Was that? Hold on, make sure it's not this one.
Last time was where we saw Jason instead of Dick, and that was already that was kind of the same thing of okay, we're progressing forwards in time.
Yeah, and so he goes, no, it's a different kid, and they all think he's just rambling,
Yeah.
But yeah, so that showed a time, but yeah, I was excited to see Bane show up. Just because of what this has been doing with how the villains treat him, right?
Yeah.
How the different, and like Bane always has this sense of honor as long as he's not venomed up. So I was curious to see how this was going to play out, and a lot more brutal than I expected.
I mean, he hands the kid a gun whilst giving him a speech about becoming stronger and whatnot, and the kid holds the gun up to a guard. It's a really well done sequence, actually. It's one of my favorite sequences in the backup, because it's just like him walking down the hall and there's these guards down halfway down.
Shadows as well.
Yeah, and he holds the gun up and the guard notices him, disarms him, and basically says that, what, no one's here and it was you against me and I had to protect myself, kind of thing.
Worth noting as well, I think is important to say, the kid does lower the gun before the guard notices.
Yeah,
he's already not going through with it.
Yeah, he's making the choice to not kill someone. And the guard's going to kill him just sort of in spite because he's going to enjoy it. And in a roundabout way, I guess Zaz also ends up being someone who helps the kid. Although notably, Zaz, unlike every other villain the kid's encountered, is actually going to use him as a victim afterwards. He is going to kill him.
Yeah, and I think that's a distinction on Rosenberg's part too, on like how much worse Zaz is. Like he's a lot closer to the Joker.
I like seeing Zaz just add the extra mark there and there. There's no, he'll get to it later at the end of the day. Nope. Right there. Check us. So just, right. Okay, I killed him. Time to add another mark.
Yeah, the guard. After he's killed the guard, he slashes his neck a little bit. Yeah.
Well, and I like here, he goes, lucky I was here, huh? He goes, thank you. Oh, no, I didn't mean lucky for you. Because he's just seeing everybody as the next hash mark.
Yeah. And of course, Bane's still there, though. He shows up and doesn't protect him. He just says, this isn't a fair fight. Drop the knife and then you can fight the kid.
Yeah. Hey, kid, you're going to fight a fully grown serial killer adult. All right, go. Oh, man, that's that twisted sense of honor I was talking about.
But at the end of it, he doesn't let Zaz kill him.
Yeah, no, he still steps in, because, I mean, it would have been really goofy if the kid was able to beat Zaz, but he does get some nice shots in, and then Bane pulls Zaz off when he's going to go for the kill. And says, hey, your enemies haven't won if you walk away. Walk away and be stronger,
You can only ever lose one fight.
Yeah, so he goes off into the night, he goes into the city, and he's asking around to find Elliot. It turns out, and he finds him and hugs him at the end. And What's funny though is that he's kind of going against Bane's advice in a way because he doesn't want to stay in Gotham. He doesn't want to become stronger here. He wants to leave and start fresh somewhere else. He just wants to get away from the cancer that is Gotham City. So it is interesting how he is kind of like gaining his own kind of like desire and his own kind of like self respect in a sense as time goes on, because he's like, obviously we understand what Bane's saying to him, we understand the lessons that he's teaching about becoming a villain, but it's almost like this kid, no matter what, actually doesn't want to be a villain. Like, he hates Batman, sure, right, and he has that in common with a lot of the villains, and the villains keep trying to take him in between Clayface, Bane, Penguin, but he keeps kind of rejecting it. He keeps trying to move away from it no matter what. So there may actually be kind of a touching story of someone who's just refusing to be part of that.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be on either end. Like, he doesn't like Batman because Batman terrified him. But he also doesn't want to be like the hardcore villains. He's much more at home in the kind of passiveness of like Clayface and even Scarecrow, weirdly.
But even them though, he doesn't want to actually ultimately. I mean, he did as a kid. You know, he went to help Scarecrow. But I think as he's growing up here, he's continually showing this pattern of trying to break away from, because he doesn't want to just be another Gotham villain. And I think you can either end this with him finally being the one who breaks away and it can be kind of heartfelt, or the tragedy is that he eventually is broken down and just becomes another villain in Gotham.
I suspect the latter. As much as I would, you tend to root for the happy ending, I think that's kind of feel the point of this story is just Gotham shit, and it just beats people down like this.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it does.
That could be the story. That could be where we're ending up. But yeah, so no, a good chapter and the backup as well. So Detective, it's just a nice, consistent, solid read every week right now. Yeah, it's been a good staple.
It's going to be weird when this goes back to once a month.
I know, it really is. But it's been this anchor of like every week for the last month and a half. It's been really nice. All right, Matt, what are you going to give the main story?
I'll give the main story an 8.
And the backup?
8.5.
Connor, main story?
Main story 7.5.
And the backup?
8.5.
Yeah, main story for me, I'm happy to go with an 8 myself, and backup I will also give an 8 too. So I'm really good time with this. So that's cool. All right. So Nightwing, issue 89, Tom Taylor writing, Bruno Redondo on the art. This is the first part of the two-part crossover with Superman, Son of Kal-El. Obviously, Taylor's writing both books anyway, which made this a very natural read, at least if you've also been reading Superman. I imagine if you haven't been reading Superman, this maybe felt a bit more of a shift.
I think it probably feels really jarring. And I'm going to just throw out my biggest critique of the issue straight away. It's not as satisfying an issue as most of the Taylor issues are. While I like everything in this issue, just want to make that very clear. I enjoy it. I got to the end and went, oh, that's it, it's over.
This almost feels like a Nightwing showing up in an issue of Superman and not Superman showing up in Nightwing.
It feels more like a Superman book than it does a Nightwing.
It does,
issue.
and it feels like I only got half an issue. And maybe that's because Nightwing was only really in a handful of pages, really. Yeah. But I feel like I didn't get an issue in Nightwing that I actually wanted, even though I enjoyed the issue.
I mean, I would agree it feels more like a Superman issue, but there's still a lot in here that I love, and at the very least, even if you do feel a little bit differently to it, it is only one issue. You know, it's one issue, this one issue Superman, and we're back to normal. Yeah. So
I think it very much feels like, I suspect I would have enjoyed this more as just a oversized one shot, because it feels like it feel like there's no resolution at the end of this. Like, no, you need part 2 for everything. There's nothing that makes this a single issue, whereas I think this just would have functioned better as an oversized one shot.
That may very well be true, but we start off with a flashback towards the end of New 52, because Nightwing's in his red outfit. And
John's,
a kid.
10.
Yeah. And they're looking for someone. It turns out to be John, and it's like, the part of the Justice League are looking as well, but they do this whole thing where the heat vision comes out of the cave, and Nightwing turns and says, "What do you mean, what happened?" He's scared, and a giant bat just showed up. So he pulls off his mask, and he pulls off Bruce's mask as well, and then goes in and speaks calmly to him and says, "It's good to meet him," and so on and so on. They call in Clark, and he comes in and hugs him, and There's a couple of really funny jokes here. Nightwing's poking fun at Batman and says, "Hey, he's got lollipops in his belt for kids," but they're right next to the smoke bombs and they look very similar because they're both red. And that was an okay joke, but it was the ending of the scene where Superman says, "I don't know what I'm more worried about: you giving a smoke bomb to a child, or throwing a lollipop at the Joker and then trying to disappear."
You know what? That might be the end of the Joker. That if Batman ever throws a lollipop at him trying to disappear, Joker's like, "Well, my job is done here.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever gonna top this."
I love that. I was like, fine, I'll move them to another pocket.
Yeah, it was a really sweet
that might
scene.
be the strongest section of this issue. Is that flashback, just because it nails. Taylor really nails all the characters.
I probably wouldn't agree with that, but I do like it a lot. And
I think I agree, and not that it's necessarily better than most of the other stuff, but that it's the only part of the issue where I felt like I got a chunk of a story rather than like, I got
clear and concise. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's essential because it's showing what Nightwing is like with young John, and we're going to see how different that relationship is. It sets up the themes of him looking out for John. Which is something obviously Superman asked him to, because I mean this follows straight on from the events of the last Superman issue. He talks about the monster, he's talking to the hologram of Clark in the fortress, and what I actually really liked here is that John, unlike, I mean I'm sure Clark's played, I mean there's been a lot of Superman comics for a lot of years, but the idea that John immediately, the first time he's really using this Clark hologram that we've seen, he basically turns it off halfway through the conversation, says, "You know what, I don't want this fake version, like this is not my real father, I don't like this, I'm not using it."
Yeah, and see, that's the thing with Clark too, is like he could go talk to the fake Jor-El because he never really knew Jor-El.
He never knew anything different, whereas John can feel that this is not the same.
Right, and he needs that actual human, comfort from a figure.
I like that because we've talked a lot about how we're showing differences between them as Superman, and I think this is not an important one, but I do think it's a really interesting little detail.
Also, Clark tended not to use Jor-El for that purpose. It was more not just to plot points, but it was to do with information and and his heritage. Whereas he had his own family for comfort, right? Whereas John's problem is Clark is his family and he's gone, right? That's why it hurts more.
Some of the stuff I loved in this issue though was the attire that both Dick and Babs are sleeping in. So
I got a good chuckle out of me.
She wakes up in a Teen Titans Go shirt, and that's pretty funny. And it's because Kal-X is there, and he's like there to seek out Nightwing because Superman had asked him, "Hey, if John needs help, seek out Dick Grayson," right? But
you dropped this fast in my direction.
Yeah, but the thing that popped me though, right, is the last panel of this scene, which is when Dick stands up and we see what his pajama bottoms are. For some reason, this made me cackle with absolute laughter. I was not expecting this.
No, I didn't either. It's the timing of it, because it made me laugh out loud as well.
Yeah.
It's an old scene. It's like, you're not questioning what his pajama bottoms are. That's not like what's in your head.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter. He's just in bed. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Right. But it's the way it holds it off so long in the scene, and then it just stands up and shows it just out of nowhere. It's like, and because he has it's a plain black t-shirt, so it's not like it's already a branded thing, and you've seen Babs' branded thing, so you're not expecting it.
Yeah, so he stands up and it's just the classic yellow oval bat logo, like over and over again as his pajama bottoms
on the grey bottoms as well.
Yeah. So it's just this really goofy, like, I love this idea that both of them just have like a drawer full of branded like stuff that's kind of silly to sleep in. It's really funny. Sure. I don't know. It got me good.
I like that also. Helix is like, well, I don't work for Superman. It's kind of it's a partnership
relation.
Yes.
Yeah. I like that. And I like that he shows up to pet the dog. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I also like Dick feeling bad he's not checked in John yet because Superman asked him to keep an eye on him, and he's like, "Oh shit, I should really go to Metropolis, so let's go do that." So no, I really like this scene quite a bit. We see in Metropolis that a superhero, was his name Dusk? What's that?
Risk.
Risk, there you go. I knew it was something that said it like that. Risk is being tracked down by 3 members of the Rising who hunt him down and kill him, and despite his superpowers, can't fight back. And then we see, and there's a lot of really great touches because I've forgotten about this, but now I'm seeing the scene. I'm looking at the scene again, where Jay pokes fun at John by saying, we're meeting our rich benefactor today, and the big dramatic turn, Lex Luthor, and he just stares at him, and he just starts pissing himself laughing. And it's one of those things where like this is just poking fun at like something that would normally be in a comic book. Is the reveal that Lex Luthor's like secretly behind something?
I think it feels maybe a little more awkward right now, and not in a positive way. In that is literally the current plot in Batman.
Yeah,
and it feels like maybe don't be taking shots at the main Batman book while that story's going on right now.
I don't think it felt like a shot to me.
No, it didn't feel like a shot to me. It just felt like Jay going like, watch me get the better of him because he's a naive boy still.
Because this is more about Lex Luthor's tie to Superman than it is about Lex Luthor being a villain who's behind things in general.
But he is kind of behind the Rising, which is kind of funny.
That's true.
In an ironic sense, is like he worked with Bendix to do the Rising program. So yeah, but things are also with how they kill Risk by drowning him is that's how I know Tom Taylor wrote Wolverine. That's like the one way to kill Wolverine. Right? He still has to breathe. So I thought that was great. But Risk is a character I wasn't very familiar with, and he seems very 90s, right? Like, I heard a lot of Teen Titans. So,
I have no doubt he existed and he was in a Teen Titans book at some point, but I mean, I didn't really know him either. So, Dick's actually helped funding the truth a little bit. Makes enough sense, I suppose, with his new current money.
Gotta throw that Alfred cash somewhere.
Yeah, but they find out about the superhero murder, and then later on we find out there was two others around the world at the same time, more or less. And Dick, of course, is not disguised or not fooled by the little disguise that John's wearing, so he just sort of whispers, "Superman, oh, you can hear me. Meet me in top of the building." Blah blah blah. He's like, "How'd you know it was me?" Dude, I'm familiar with these little diamond masks. Also, like, you need to change your voice if you're going to like really hide who you are. Come on now. Like, I'm an expert at this. So they go and investigate the crime scene and trace like a trail of energy. And would you believe it, the cliffhanger of the issue is that it leads back to LexCorp. And the storyline is called World's Finest Sons, which was a nice little title, I thought, when I got to that title page at the end.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah, so it's a neat thing. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be a long story, and it's mostly going to be wrapped up in the second part. And I think it is more of a Superman story in the sense that it feels like it's tying into more what Superman's going through, and I feel like whatever comes from this Lex stuff is going to tie more into Superman going forward as well. And what this is really about is that, well, Nightwing was asked to keep an eye on him, so this is him coming in to like give him some guidance, because John does feel bad about the monster attack. He feels bad that people died. He's not doing well with that, and like, you know, probably the best thing about the next issue, and by that I mean Superman, the second part of this crossover, is probably going to be the potential heart-to-heart, or like the advice that Dick gives them, or when they actually get to talk about stuff. And I'm sure the plot will be fun. I'm sure it'll be fine, full of nice little moments, and it'll be entertaining, because it usually is with Taylor. But that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Dick and John actually talking about what he's going through. For the page or two that we're going to get of that, I think it's probably going to be the highlight, I expect.
Probably, yeah.
So, obviously Redondo's art is very good.
Yes. As always.
Yeah. Nothing to complain about. So, you know.
I think he's on a break after this for the next couple of issues of Nightwing.
That makes sense. I will say though, it just proves to me just how much I don't like the red Nightwing costume, because even in his art, I still don't like it. I was like, I don't know why it's there. It's a flashback. We're establishing the time period, but I still don't like it.
It was one of those changes to New 52 that just felt like just because.
Yeah.
You know, they were just changing it, and it makes him feel un-Nightwing. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
it's also much fatter as well, the logo, which I just don't think I like. It looks nice.
Yeah.
I don't love it. I don't quite hate it as much. I don't think. I think just the idea of an older Dick changing to red, kind of there's a logic to it in that, you know, he chose Nightwing and he chose the blue because he wanted to reject Batman right at the time. He wanted to be his own man. I think the idea of, okay, no, he's got a bit older. He's grown up a bit. He's not like got that same mentality anymore. He's much more accepting that no, he's part of the Bat family, and him embracing red again. To show his history, there's a logic to there that works for me. I'm not saying I want the red suit. I'm just saying I don't hate it because I can see the kind of the pieces that make it work.
Do I think part of it is? I think just the name Nightwing makes, if you think of nighttime and you think the night lights of a city, or I feel like blue just like makes me think of nighttime more than red does. So it just goes with the name Nightwing more. Maybe that's a silly correlation.
Yeah.
But
well, I also don't like how it makes the design all the way around either.
Like I said, it's not perfect. I think I could have a red logo instead of blue. I think it could still definitely be a better design than this.
Yeah, blue for life.
Yeah, I'm glad they left out the red lenses though. I remember those being on the cover.
Oh,
he had the red lenses on his domino mask, and it's just not a good look. So
yeah. I had a good time with this issue though. I still think it was really good. I really liked their interactions. I think the flashback was a fun scene. I loved the Dick and Babs waking up scene. I thought that was hilarious. And yeah, I like where it's going. And I love John needing some guidance and Clark's not here. So I love that Dick is actually going to be the one that steps in and gives him that guidance. I think that's a really cool tying together of two parts of the DC universe. So I'm all about it. Matt, what are you giving Nightwing?
I'm going to give this an 8.
All right, Connor?
I think I'm just going to give it a 7, which might be the lowest I've rated an issue in Nightwing, unless maybe I did that with some of the Fear State issues. But yeah, just I like everything in it, but just I think I don't like it as much as a Nightwing issue. I didn't get quite enough from it as this is my issue for the month.
I'm going 8.5. I would agree it's more of an issue of Superman Son of Kal-El than it is an issue of Nightwing, but I would also say it's one of the best issues of Superman Son of Kal-El. I dug it. So, good stuff. All right. Wonder Woman is up next. Wonder Woman issue the 784. Becky, Cloonan, and Michael Conrad writing with Marcio Takara on the art. And like I sort of said earlier during the solicits, this is kind of the final issue before we go into crossover land. So this is wrapping up this current arc and dealing with the matter of the mirror world. The master of the mirror world is what I meant to say there. But not Mirror Master.
The Image Maker is what he calls himself.
Yes, but they say Master of Mirror World like 5 times in this issue, so that's what stuck in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I maybe an editor should have suggested something different since it is so close to Mirror Master.
Yes, that's why I kind of made a point of saying they do use the word Image Maker because and they do bold it, which because he says I am the Image Maker, Master and Commander of Mirror World, but he bolds Image Maker, which makes me assume that is supposed to be a name.
And we can assume that technology is very similar to the Mirror Master stuff, right? Like,
well,
that's why
we find out in this issue that basically when Wonder Woman was coming back to Earth, she went through this mirror world, and that's why it's like fractured, and that's why he's out there, and he claims that she's from there and that she should go back, and he tries to trick her with like it's like here's your life there, where Wonder Woman retired, and you're just in a romantic relationship with Steve, and everything's all happy. She very quickly rejects it, and part of that, of course, is because she has the lasso. There
was a moment where I was really worried on those pages because I don't think I'd clocked that this was going to be the final issue before the crossover, before I started reading it, and I got to this stuff in give or take the middle of the book. I was like, are we doing extended? Alternate. Like, here's the fantasy world, and then it only lasts like 2 pages. And I was like, oh, that was a nice surprise.
Yeah, because the lasso kind of like lets her know that this isn't real. Like she can tell. But I also I was kind of in my head just sort of joking that he's basically trying to make her think she's in the movie Us, and that she's not actually of this world. I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing. And also the episode of Twilight Zone that Us is kind of like a homage to, which actually deals with mirrors, which is why it made me think of that as well. It's an episode of Twilight Zone where a woman in a bus station is replaced with the version of her in the mirror. Just swaps places.
I don't think I've ever seen that one. I'm gonna have to track that down.
It's a good episode.
Very some Twin Peaks vibes going on.
So about Twin Peaks. But when we and Tara reviewed it, like I don't know, this is season 1, so it was like 2 years ago now. But we reviewed it. I remember just going, "Oh, Jordan Peele liked this episode," because there's a lot of us.
There's been a lot of us discussion since the Nope trailer came out, and it tires me all over again.
Nope looks good. I like the look of Nope.
Yeah, Nope looks good. I'm just talking about us and people defending it. People that I know, and I'm just like,
one person in particular, I suspect. Yeah.
So
I mean, Us is flawed, but I still liked a lot of it.
It's okay.
I I don't like it's fine to have a point of a story to put on what you want. I just want the creator to maybe point it a little bit, tell us what they were going for, just a little bit. That's just me. So so I was being like, well, what do you think it was? No, I don't know. You tell me what you think it was.
When Matt was
We'll go.
complaining, people were talking about us. I thought he was going to complain about people being shitty about it, but he's actually complaining about people
No.
defending it, which is the opposite of what I was expecting.
Because I know exactly who he's on about, and
Yeah.
I have seen the tirade of defense over that movie, and
Mhm.
it's exhausting.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I think it's flawed, but
Anyway.
there's some really effective sequences in it. I'll leave it at that.
yes. Yeah. So just with this, I wish, having read all of the Wonder Woman, right, from this creative team, not once in her return do I ever remember any of this Mirror World stuff. And I just wish they had spent maybe a page on it. So, because this whole Mirror World stuff comes out of like left field just to justify these duplicates and whatnot.
I mean, it ties. I mean, these duplicates have always been like mirrors because they've always shattered like glass. So
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But like, we saw her return through the realm of the gods, right? Like, at least me and Connor.
yeah, I
don't know
didn't,
if
but I'll
Connor-
take your word for it.
Right, and there was never once where we got this whole vibe of she came through a mirror world.
No, my
Right?
only assumption is it happened when we didn't see, as in like before she went to Valhalla. Like it was between the Sphere of the Gods and Valhalla was
Right, but
where
that's like
that stuff happened.
I
but-
just wish there was a mention before starting the story of like, oh, you know, she journeyed through the mirror world, and you know, because this just again just comes out of left field, you know.
I get it. I will say I'm not too annoyed because I don't mind the inclusion of it purely because it leads to just some gorgeous layouts. The way it plays with just the panels
The
shattering
cracks and-
constantly.
Yeah, no, Takara's art here is
And
fantastic.
that alone is enough reason to go, screw it, let's do some Mirror World stuff. For me. at
Oh,
least,
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I had enough fun with the villain monologuing, Wonder Woman fighting him. This idea that she owes a fight to the Knight outside when she goes back
Mhm.
out. Now, the reveal of who the Knight is, like, you kind of see it coming, obviously, and it makes sense that that's what they're building up to.
I think as soon as she pulls out the sword,
Yeah.
right?
The part of it I like though is that you hear like the other voice, like when it starts like sort of maybe going against his programming a little bit, and you just see like a voice, like a bubble on its own saying, "You're going to let that broad flap her gums like that?" And immediately I went, "Oh, it's Psycho. This is Psycho." Like that's immediately my mind just went, and it reveals at the next page. You see him in the very
Well, we
next
knew
page.
Psycho
Yeah.
sent him
Uh,
last issue, right?
did we? I'd forgotten if we did, but.
Well, we knew like the Shiny Knight was probably working for Psycho, but nothing
Yeah.
like this, you know.
Yeah. Well, I could have forgotten that because when I got to this page and I saw the broad line, I started laughing because I was like, "Oh, it's Psycho, you bastard!" But regardless, funny moment, and obviously he's pissed. But it's Siegfried, of course, from her time in Valhalla and wherever else, and like, yeah. So he's here in the world. He ends up going to the hospital
Yep.
to mend these wounds.
We got
and whatnot.
a nice man at a time situation going on where
Yep.
Boston's got to teach him some stuff.
Oh yeah, he doesn't understand the heart rate monitor or anything else, and
Right.
I presume a lot of other things are going to come up that he doesn't understand.
Well, I imagine he comes from the 800s or 900s, probably.
Yeah, so pre-electricity, right?
Well, pre-electricity, yes.
Yeah, well, I think that covers though everything that he's going to have explained to him.
It does, yes. Yeah.
I realise it's quite a bit of time before electricity.
I was gonna say there's a lot of other things that came between that as well.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to like. I feel like everything that came between his time and electricity, though, most of that stuff isn't. Like, I feel like it was mostly superseded, and most of it's either went away or whatever. I'm sure there's some things like I don't know when. Like I don't know. Was did the compass exist before then, or was that like an invention in between that time? Maybe that was, afterwards. I don't know.
When was the compass? Because I do know they used before the compass. You had to chart the stars, right? With
Yeah.
the sextant.
Because the early compasses were just like metal in the water, like a little dish of water, right? But
Yeah, And then I know the Vikings use sunstones.
Yeah, I'm going to say because he comes from Viking stuff, compasses are after his time.
Yes.
At least in the West. I don't know.
Aye.
Right.
But
Maybe.
I guess, but I jumped to the electricity because electricity like is so dominant in everything we use now.
Mhm.
Versus like most of the things that came before, like some of it might pop up, but I don't think it's going to be as hard to understand necessarily.
Clocks and watches, analog ones, obviously.
Yeah. So they'll have to teach him to tell the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So right as he's revealed, he talks about his workings. It was dark, the serpent, the chasm, the Aperion. So I looked up what that means, and it's a Greek word which means the unlimited, boundless, indefinite, right? So, which is a Greek word which I find is interesting.
I think it's interesting because it's bolded, which implies there's some level of importance in thanks to the lettering, but also him choosing to use the Greek in general is an interesting choice.
Right. So I thought that was good because that stood out to me when he brought that up before he.
And obviously, I don't think his coming back is going to factor much, if anything, into the crossover. So this is definitely something that they're setting up for
later. Yeah,
for after. You get a couple of pages where it's like Nubia's like, "Hey Diana, can I need you back in Themyscira?"
Crossover time, bitches.
Yeah, and it says goodbye, go have fun on the island, kind of thing. And it was a scene at the end though with Dr. Psycho where he sets up the new Villainy Inc. That he's put together, and we don't see who the other members are yet, but he's talking to them. He's got he's sort of glued one of the mirror image Wonder Woman back together as his.
It's kind of creepy, and I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Creepy.
She's got this crack down her face.
It's very like a broken doll sort of effect to it.
Yeah, it's a very Dollatron.
I was going to say Stepford wife kind of thing going. Yeah, but obviously it sets up. Okay, we've got this new villain plot, but he even says in his dialogue like, "Oh, let her go and have playtime on our island. This gives us time to plan our next thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, so when we come back after the crossover." so
traditionally, Villainy Inc. is let's see, post-crisis. You have Dr. Poison, Giganta, Jinx, Queen Clea, and Cyborg Girl.
I don't really associate this with a specific roster, other than Dr. Psycho, but I've always just taken it as a team of Wonder Woman villains.
No, yeah, but the original one was someone named Blue Snowman, Cheetah, Dr. Poison, Evil S, Giganta, Hypnota, Queen Clea, and Zara. So
Giganta and Queen Clea were the two that stood out.
Dr. Poison.
I think what this does though is by not revealing them now, it's in that table.
Yeah,
is that means we get to have some reveals of who the team members are when we come back. So
which is real cool.
Yeah,
we can kind of do them one at a time if you wanted to.
I like the fact too that he's talking about how this is like a magic trick about him shuffling the cards, and but there are people who they don't even want to play the game. That nothing matters because
it really plays up his ego. It's like I don't need to win or lose. I just want to be seen.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely plays up his Napoleon complex.
I can't not hear him in Tony Hale's voice.
Oh my god, that is the definitive version of Psycho now.
Yeah,
that just is.
So
good.
Yeah,
I haven't heard it, so I can't comment.
Yeah. You're missing out, Pete.
Yeah,
genuinely missing out.
Yeah.
Just imagine a completely psychotic Buster Bluth, and you got it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind.
That version of Psycho is maybe one of my favorite things on that show, though. He's so good.
Yes, that Kite Man and Bane of the male characters.
Poor Kite Man.
Yes. Hell no.
Yes, very good. No, good stuff. Yeah, it was a fun issue.
Yeah, man, Takara's art though, I can't get over how good it is.
Yeah, the art does elevate
what makes
it.
this issue.
Yeah,
you're more than just an average issue because the plot's good, it's solid, but it's the art that can elevate it to being this is fun.
I think it's got a supporting cast there. I think Deadman's been a fun addition to Wonder Woman's roster. You still got Steve and Etta doing their thing, and I really like Dr. Psycho just as a villain to focus on. As much as I love Cheetah and I love when they use Ares, but I like they overused him a bit maybe. So it's just nice to let some of the other villains kind of take center stage. So him putting a team of villains together, it'll probably be other people. Cheetah might be on it, but it'll probably be others. I think it's just a fun idea. So I love playing with that stuff. So. All right, cool. Matt, what are you giving the book?
I'm gonna give this one. I've given out 2 8s. So do I go? I'll go 7.5.
7.5. Connor?
It's a solid 7 for me. Had fun with it.
I will go. I'll agree with Matt and go with 7.5. I think it's a solid 7 book, but the art just kind of bumping it up a little bit, just giving it a bit of a sheen that I think feels quite nice. So that's cool. All right. The Flash, issue 779, Jeremy Adams writing with Brent, Peeples, and Fernando Passarin on the art. And this is exciting because Matt is caught up and has also read this new issue of The Flash, so I don't have to go on my own anymore. So last issue, the kids basically realized that dad was in trouble because Jay could sense it now that he's got his powers back, and very quickly like, hey, we should go and help him. And they take Maxine with them, who has to sort of mention like, sort of quickly that she has animal powers at some point. I do love though right before the teleport though, she's like, wait, we have to go help your dad? Who's your dad? And then the teleport is like the Flash is there. It's like, oh, okay. All right. There we go. But yeah, it's just, she mentions that she's connecting to some weird like alien animals and stuff in Gem World at one point. She's like, there's like a slug outside that has like this high sense of smell that can tell when someone's lying. Because that's important at one point because Opal's trying to say that he's going to help again. Yeah. But yeah, so good fun stuff. Obviously Wally knows who Animal Man is. In fact, Maxine even introduces herself as Animal Girl.
which I loved.
Yeah,
that's good.
So, good stuff all around here. Like the actual plot of like stopping Eclipso. This is fine. Like, they have to, like, all the kids have to work together to like clear Wally a path so he can get in and use the spear to stab Eclipso because it'll stop him. I like the double page spread where the big beams going up from the crystal, and it's like all the different aliens on these planets are starting to be mind controlled. Like all that stuff was fun enough.
Yeah, the stuff that's worked with me since coming back to this book is the family stuff with Wally. How his anchor for getting back, right, when he first got lost, was his family. Because that's the whole point of him having that race with Wally when the surge happened, or with Barry, was to go back and just try to live as normal life as possible. And so just the fact that the kids are able to come to him, when they're needed, and that Jay is willing to sacrifice himself and deal with his pain to help his dad win the day. I just,
which gets
there's a lot of good stuff there
by the end of the issue, because Wally's got this surge of extra speed force that the Spectre says, hey, you can give that to your son to fix.
Yeah, so after he uses the spear on the vampire, whatever his name was, and saves the day, the Spectre comes to kind of collect Eclipso, who's now in this what do they call it, the glaive, which I hope shows back up, because I like any type of Eclipso stuff, as we know. But it ties into Eclipso's origin as an angel of vengeance, and how Spectre's coming to clean up, which I kind of like all this kind of metaphysical stuff at play here in a Flash book, because normally we don't get that. It's all very sci-fi. So for here, they're talking about the one above all, and that how Wally's just kind of like, well, I'm just trying to get back to my family, and Spectre's like, oh well, this has all happened just because you're the perfect person to handle all this type of stuff. And I just really liked how you can think of the one above all as God with the big G or anything, but it's also kind of just, for me, I kind of read that as almost the fans who were just like, well, we want Wally to do something important.
Sure, yeah.
We've been wanting him forever, so this is, or maybe not the fans, maybe it's the writer here, in that he's going like, we did all this with Wally because we knew he could handle it, and we wanted to give him something of importance to do, and that's why. And it's really saccharine, but it really hit my heart.
I think the fans' take on it, I think, works better than the writer, because the writer feels a bit egotistical.
Maybe, but like
putting himself into the role of God.
Yeah, but like, he is a creator, right? Jeremy Adams here is the creator, for lack of a better term. But
yeah, but I think looking at fans, it's more like we are the powers that be that are sort of like striving striving and wanting these things to work out. Joe, I really like that when Maxine's running with Irie, You know, obviously the way they portray the animal powers is they have like the red sort of almost like Green Lantern
Outline.
construct of like an animal around her, right? I love that she's like embodying a cheetah when she's running with just. I mean, even a cheetah wouldn't keep up with a Flash speedster, but like the idea that she's keeping up better than she would otherwise because she's running at 60 miles an hour is kind of cool.
She's using an alien animal, right? Because they got to be within close. Is that how animal powers work?
I don't. I mean, to an extent, but I think like.
Okay. Because some of the other animals she's become are definitely not earthbound.
Oh yeah, she becomes like a giant claw thing at one point, and then like a giant like beast.
It looks like one of the worms from Tremors, kind of.
Yeah, Graboid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some of the more fun stuff in in those sequences. I think. Yeah. But yeah, so obviously after that, the Justice League Dark are back to normal. Wally has his conversation with the Spectre, and they comment, "Hey, okay, so he fixes Jay so that Jay now still has his powers, but he's not in pain anymore. So, and he's got a new name.
Surge.
Yeah, because he's like, hey, Surge is a good name for a hero. So,
and I love Irie asking, hey, so like, how does my name work out now? Because when she took the Impulse name, Impulse wasn't around.
Yeah.
And he's kind of not around anymore either. Thanks, Bendis. But, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if we get her with the name Impulse. I just love that the kids got their own little storyline that then tied into the main plot. The big ending of the issue, though, is that they mention, Mum must be worried, and we cut to Linda, and she's like trying to write a book. Clearly, it sounds like it's somewhat based on her husband's adventures because she's talking about his red hair, unkempt and long from years in isolation.
Yeah.
But she's trying to write a book, and she gets hungry, and she gets up, and then she notices the kids aren't there, and she freaks out. And then she runs outside and she super speeds. There's some lightning trailing from her. And there's a lot. I mean, the joke here is that she uses one of the fake words she made in her little novel where she goes, oh, snargle bargle. So it's a funny little ending in the context of what was set up. But Linda seems to have a little bit of powers right now. And I'm sure we're going to explore in the next few issues as to why, how,
here's
when.
my theory.
Go on.
She's pregnant.
There you go.
Has a Force baby, a Speed Force baby, and that by him fixing the Speed Force and doing all this, is that there's another one on the way, and as long as she's as long as the baby's in utero, she'll have a tie to the Speed Force.
That would make some sense.
Yeah, or just Speed Force, man. We don't have to explain anything, right?
Yeah, in a comic book way, that would make enough sense for me. Yes. Connor bobbing his head to whatever he's listening to really obviously is kind of funny. Good time. Like I said, the family stuff, and this is my favorite part about it as well. And I'm digging the focus they're getting. So,
it also made me realize how shitty of a fan I can be sometimes. Where I was like, I want Wally West back, and not like this. And then it was like, oh no, I just got through this first couple issues. And it was it's a really fun read. I mean, I'm glad I do listen when you talk about stuff.
Unlike
it was
some people.
It was a clip
I'm listening. I'm just ignoring you.
It was a clip that brought me back, but then now really it's the West family, and just again I brought it up on the show before, but like I'll never forget when Wally came back the first time in the pages of the Lightning Saga with JLA or Justice League and JSA, and just I remember that feeling, and just like so here to have him back, and after having him gone for, however long, and then kind of just he was there but not really the longest time. Like there's that weird Titans book for a while, but him being able to carry a Flash title again, just for me, it means a lot.
Yeah, no, good vibes. All right, Matt, what are you giving the Flash?
I'm going to give this let's go 7.5, and we didn't even really touch on the art. How, not that it's all over the place because it's mostly fine, but there's some weird inks going on some of the pages where it's the same artist as earlier, but a different inker, and there's just an inconsistency throughout, but it's not a deal breaker. It didn't get my enjoyment. It's just something I noticed. But yeah, 7.5.
Yeah, I actually I like the coloring quite a bit because it's nice and vibrant, and
Yeah.
I think that's usually good for a flash book because you want the red to pop and you want uh I don't know, it just you want it to feel fun compared to whereas like a bat book you might want more moody muted colors potentially, not always, but you might. Uh, yeah, so a straight 7 for me. Like I don't think it's. I think the Flash is just a consistent 7 out of 10 for me, and it's delivering me something I want. It's scratching an itch that I have without being exceptional, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be exceptional. Not everything has to be exceptional, but yeah, that was 7 out of 10 for me. So that's cool. All right, so Batman the Knight. This is issue 2. And it's Chip Zdarsky writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico on the art, and it's not much of a time jump. It's Bruce quite soon after. He's in Paris. It's ultimately how he's going to meet Descartes by the end of the issue, but it's his time with an older thief who is obviously kind of like a prototype for Catwoman in a lot of ways.
Catwoman 0.5.
Yeah. But this is one who's older than him, who's middle aged, and he's like 19 or whatever he's meant to be right now.
He can't be older than 20, surely.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. So he is this younger man, which is why later on in the story when he kisses her and she's like, I'm tempted, but I'm like pushing 50 or whatever she's meant to be. So
she stole his heart.
Yeah. So that's definitely felt different from the first issue because this was more of a straight story that just sort of went sequentially.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one a lot more. And also reading, I started when my comics wouldn't load. I do have Zdarsky's Daredevil, right? So I started reading that.
Yes.
And there is some, I can tell the stylings, and it's not just because Batman, Daredevil, but this one feels much more like a Zdarsky issue with that Daredevil and some of the other stuff I've read, like the Red Hood story in Urban Legends. That he did. So I'm much more in on this issue than I was on the first one.
I mean, I was pretty in on it already, but yeah, I'm a big fan of this issue as well.
Yeah, I went for a bit of a weird mixed emotion at first because when it started off and it became clear it was just going to be more of a straightforward issue. At first, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is like doing as many unique things with this like sort of part of his origin, and maybe I'm less interested because of that. But then as it went on and it sort of like got to further beats in the story, I was like, okay, I'm kind of digging kind of like what it's doing here with him.
And then the box of teeth at the end.
Yeah, but him realizing that he is like he has to learn from criminals to be the best. Because I mean, if there's one thing I don't like in this issue, there's a line of dialogue near the start where he says that he beat the best fencer.
You're going to complain about the internet reference, are you?
No.
Oh, I'm surprised because you complained about things like that in Batman Origins before.
No. I hate that he says I bet I practiced fencing for 2 weeks and bet the best fencer after that.
I mean, he's a Mary Sue. What do you want?
Yeah, that's my problem with it. Is like I'm okay with Bruce learning to do really tough things and becoming the best at everything, but I don't like the implication that he is able to do any of it easily. Like it
gives him a superpower, and like he has super learning.
The idea that Bruce went away for a handful of years and came back the best at everything is already a bit like it plays it to the he's always been Mary Sue.
But that's where like I complain about Ghostmaker a lot, right? But I feel like that's what Ghostmaker kind of is mocking, is now you have another one that's like that, so it doesn't make Bruce special. There's almost like people that
you keep it vague enough that it doesn't matter though. Like this was just so specific. It took me 2 weeks to become the best fencer in the world. Like
no, I understand that. I also like that in this issue it starts with him almost having this cockiness to where as he's trying to learn how to be a thief, it's so counter to who Bruce Wayne is on the inside. He has a hard time adapting to it. He's not instantly good at it, and that's where some of the conflict comes from. So I do enjoy that aspect of it, but yeah, the 2 weeks to become the world's best fencer, it made me roll my eyes.
Yeah, I just there's something I'd rather didn't do. I think you can get the general idea of him becoming like some of the best at some things without definitively stating that he is the literal best at these things. It's that's something I rather didn't do. But yeah, he runs into this cat thief, this cat burglar. Not a thief of cats.
Grey Shadow.
No,
Yes,
that's the other one.
yes, yes, the Grey Shadow, and encounters her, and she bests him. She's able to get away, and this frustrates him. And she's so fascinated by him that she intentionally comes to see him the next day. She knows who he is, comes in, when he's out having coffee or whatever, and basically says, "Hey, you want to learn how to catch me? Well, I can teach you how to do that." And invites him to come along that night, and it starts this relationship of them. Basically, it's him being trained by her to, be stealthy, to get into places unnoticed, to break alarms, all things that are going to be useful as Batman. I mean, that's the thing. Like, everything she's describing, everything he's describing, his narration about learning, it's like, oh yeah, this is all Batman stuff. Like, he needs to know how to do all this.
There's a point where he acknowledges, like, Joe, I don't really want to be a criminal. I don't want to work with these people, but these skills, these are what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be breaking into place. I'm going to be trespassing. I am essentially going to be a criminal.
Yeah. And we're interested in the cards separately. There's a murder that happens. This killer is going around.
He is basically Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
he's
much.
called into advise.
Yeah.
Well, because there's it opens with this serial killer roaming around Paris, and this is who Ducard's called in to help with.
Yeah, the serial killer in this case, he kills entire families, barring one child. Like, he'll always leave one child alive, usually the youngest. But so it's quite brutal. It's a brutal, series of murders that's happening in the city, and Ducard's on the case seemingly. And this comes back in at the end when somehow it's led him across the path of Bruce and Grey Ghost, probably related to the teeth in the box. I suspect.
Yeah.
Because they seem to maybe have stolen from the killer, it would seem. But
yes.
We get like a montage of them practicing and training, and she's like, "No, tonight we actually go steal something," and it doesn't go very well. Police show up. Bruce gets shot in the leg, and part of me thought, oh, maybe she's going to ditch him, and like, because she doesn't actually care about them much, but she does. No, she picks him up, takes him to safety.
It goes out of its way to show that yes, she's a thief and a criminal, but she's not like a terrible person.
She's a thief, but not a villain. Yeah, right. Like, she steals stuff.
And they even point out early on, she's got a bit of a Robin Hood thing going as well, where she gives a lot of it back to the poor.
He does kind of go, yeah, but you're wearing some real expensive stuff there. You ain't giving it all away.
Yes. Like, I have taste.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if she's giving half to people who need it, then keeping half to be rich, I mean...
Still a net benefit, I suppose, overall for people.
Yeah. At least she's not claiming it's a charity and then driving a Lamborghini.
True.
I thought you were going to make a really specific reference to something in the UK this week. Then you didn't.
No. That's just more about the head. I don't remember what charity it was, but like the head of some charities, got like a super expensive car.
Yeah, I thought you were going to make a reference. No. There's something just the last couple of days of, if you remember, Captain Tom from the stuff during lockdown. Like he was like a 100-year-old veteran, and was like walking around his garden to raise money for NHS. But there was a whole thing this week where the charity set up in his name tried to install his, I don't know if it was daughter or his granddaughter, as the CEO with like £150,000 salary, which is like 10% of their total earnings so far. And it got blocked by the watchdogs stuff like that.
As it should be. That. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's what you were about to reference when you started talking about, charities. They've been really topical.
I mean, if someone has to run it, then someone has to run it. But 150 grand salary seems a bit excessively high.
I think for context, I think it's the RSPCA, the head of them, which is obviously like one of the biggest charities in the UK. Their CEO is on like 150k, but their income is like hundreds of times, this relatively new charity that's existed for a year.
Oh well, there you go. But yeah, so it's when they're patching up. Yeah, she's stitching up his leg that she ends up kissing him. He ends up kissing her, I should say. And she kind of pulls away and isn't like uncomfortable by it, and even like comments to herself that she kind of wishes that she was younger, so she.
Well, that's the French for you.
Feel going for it. Yeah, but part of me thought they were maybe going to do a thing here where she did actually kind of go along and have a fling with him, and it'd be kind of his, his coming of age fling with this older woman.
That'll happen later in the book.
It may still happen, yeah. But yeah, there's a secret compartment in the box they stole that has all these teeth popping out. But the big cliffhanger is that the card is there. He has her at gun. He's got her as a sort of shield and is pointing the gun at both of them. And there you go. So this is how he meets the card. You imagine, assuming it's going to follow some form of traditional origin story stuff, that he will end up also learning from the card. But maybe they'll swerve us. Yeah, maybe they'll swerve us and spin out of that. But
while this is being unconventional, I don't think it's being that flagrantly just throwing stuff out for the sake of it, because that would be just throwing out for the sake of it.
Yeah, it's not trying to completely contradict everything. It's just trying to add its own spin on things.
Yeah, this is a unique take, but it doesn't necessarily... There's a version of continuity where so far this could kind of work, right?
Yeah. My feelings on this are pretty similar to the first issue overall, in the sense that I think it's well enough put together. I like the voice mostly for Bruce, and I think it's a nice, pleasant read. I'm still not convinced I need another sort of part of the origin like this, sort of embellished.
Yeah.
It's not convinced me yet it needs to exist, and it may never do that, and that may be okay. But it does feel a bit superfluous in that sense. But
yeah, I get that. I've kind of just like compartmentalized that and go, okay, this doesn't need to exist, but as long as it's good, I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so far,
that gets me so far, but there's always just that lingering feeling of like, I don't really need anybody doing this again or doing a version of this. There's always that part of me still there. So I mean, that kind of was the biggest thing going against it. But how did you feel about it, Matt?
A lot of the same things, but at least I like what I'm reading. It doesn't, like this issue especially, it moved. But I like a lot of the voice for the characters too, because like when he first shows up to talk with the thief lady, she's like, "How'd you know?" It's like, well, it's like being followed by a bull, and then she says, "Oh yeah, I'll teach you and your thundering hooves." Something along those lines, and there's just a lot of
which is a nice
humor
reference for her to bring up, because she actually does effectively Batman out the scene the night before. Like, she disappears and he's like, "How did she do that?" Which is funny because that's what he does to everyone when he's Batman.
And so with the card showing up at the end, it's like you guys said, they probably stole something that belonged to the killer, and he's tracked it to them. Now he's going to learn the flip side of the detective. He's learned from the thief. Now he's going to learn from Ducard. Yeah. So,
whereas after the last issue, we weren't even sure how much of a time jump it was going to be because of like how individual it felt. This feels like the next issue has to pick up pretty much where it leaves off.
More or less exactly, yeah.
Right.
So,
you could do a little bit and like just flash back to this moment if you wanted to, but I don't think it can go too extreme.
So, we'll see how it goes. All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
Maybe the 7.5.
Okay, Connor.
I'll go with an 8.5. I really enjoyed this, and I really like the art.
Yeah, old Giandomenico's got his spin on things. I think I'm going to agree with Matt more than Connor here with the number. And not put a 4.5 as I accidentally just typed. 7.5. Because, like I say, there's just this like feeling of like, I don't know if we need to be doing this. I'm not sure what makes this worthwhile yet necessarily, other than just being kind of good. Legit, maybe it's enough, but
that's for me is enough. But I get why it's not for everyone.
So hey, but there you go. That's Batman the Night issue 2. Next up is Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, issue 8, the final issue. This is Tom King, of course, and Bilquis Evely on the art. And we get to wrap up yet another Tom King book. We're kind of in a period here of wrapping a lot of these up. So, yeah, obviously we had the cliffhanger. What's funny, actually, is that all of Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, to go back to something I said about Batman the Night issue 1, is every single issue of Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, until the end of issue 7 to 8 is the only time that it's different. but they've all had these time jumps because they've all felt like really distinct individual chapters. So issue 7 get into issue 8 is the only time it's had a direct cliffhanger, which had to be picked up like immediately. And it's interesting because it almost makes it feel like the most important transition between issues because they didn't really do cliffhangers in the traditional sense before. This made it feel like a really big deal that there was a cliffhanger because it just gave it this more weight, which is interesting. To just not do it the whole time at the issue ends, but then do it at issue 7 get into 8. It's a neat touch. It gave it a bit more of an effect because of that. But yeah, we ended with Ruthie with the sword up to Krem's neck, and she's going to make the choice to kill him. But here, as Supergirl is still dealing with the brigand with Comet, it actually is a bit more long form than that, where she unties him and says, "No, like my father taught me right from wrong, and I can't just kill someone unarmed like you did. Like it has to be more of a fair fight." Which just feels like, oh wait, you're just setting yourself up for failure then, because this guy
right. But we know that she survives enough to write all this down, right? So then it started to make me question things. I was like, well, we haven't been seeing her keeping a journal. I'm pretty sure she's gonna make it out, but I got very worried here. Because this is, as we've seen throughout, this is a very bad dude.
Because there's always the chance that this is like a post-grave narration, right? There's always the...
Right, there's that too. And so when she sticks the sword in the ground, it was like, all right, we're going to race to it. And I was like, oh, what are you doing, girl?
Yeah, and she kicks him in the face, and Krem gets... It actually gets quite brutal where she cuts off his fingers. So there's like a really great... Because she manages to get the sword, and she cuts off his fingers. He's yelling, "You bitch," like over and over again. And she has the chance to kill him, and when she actually gets the chance to swipe at his neck, she can't do it. And she keeps trying. She tries like multiple times, and every time she just can't do it. And it's this big thing. So it's this idea where she like really has the chance to, and kind of earns it in fair combat as well. It's not just like she can kill him in cold blood, and she still can't do it. Meanwhile, Supergirl shows up with Comet now in human form. Because he's dead. Comet's dead.
Yeah, so that was the thing. I don't know if we brought up on Comet when they first showed up, how just weird Comet's origin is, and I was wondering if King was going to get into that at all. And I kind of just love how she explains it, but it's almost in grief. Like it's he was cursed. It's complicated, but that's not the point. The point was that he was still there for me.
Yeah. It's the sort of thing where
really
she explains it really quickly, and it's like, if you really want to know a lot about this, go and look it up because it's quite weird.
Right, but I love the pacing of that when she puts him down and sees that Krem's there, and that Ruthie has let him through. He's in not good shape,
The big reveal here, though, is that Supergirl is that Crypto's fine. Crypto was actually okay from the start because she took him to a vet on the planet and he's fine. They've dealt with it. Crypto's completely fine, and this journey was about trying to like teach Ruthie to let go of her vengeance. That's what the whole point of the journey was. It was about her. She didn't need her help to track down Krem. She could have done that on her own to arrest him or bring him to justice. This was all about giving the girl a teaching moment. And what's the dark irony of it, though, is that she feels that she's failed, and because of that, she almost like says, "Well, there's a hypocrisy in my teachings," because she thought that she could teach her like to not like obsess over the thing, but it's a crock of shit because I still dream of Krypton. That's I mean, I'm paraphrasing slightly, but she's like, "No, I still dream of Krypton, so who am I to say that you should give this up?" And she actually goes to like maybe kill Krem herself, and it's actually Ruthie yelling out, "I learned the lesson. I learned it," to stop Supergirl from like sort of like betraying herself and becoming someone who kills. So there's this really wonderful kind of knock-on effect of like, no, Supergirl did teach her the lesson and made her like an empathetic person, and in turn Ruthie had to then teach her that back and sort of say, no, you did teach me this, like I'm going to stop you from doing this. And so there's kind of a sweet ending here to it, even though it gets like Supergirl's in a really dark place by the end. And it's this idea of letting go of those things that sort of like you obsess over your whole life. And for Supergirl, it has been the destruction of Krypton. It has been this. And I think that's why King took the time to tell her really sort of dark version of the of her leaving Krypton. It was it was
the Argo City stuff.
the bit more in detail than normal. And we get like the montage through all of the chapters of the journey. Yeah, like all the different situations they've been in as she narrates through it, and it's great. It builds up, and Supergirl says to her, "It's too big and we're too small," which is something Ruthie said back at the start of the series about how small you feel when everything's like overbearing. And we cut to the future where Ruthie's an old woman after she's written her book, and Supergirl shows up in a different costume with shorter hair just to sort of show that time has passed. And Ruthie's like saying, "Who's a good boy? Crypto's a good dog," and all that. She admits that, "Oh, you read the book? Oh, it's full of like, there's nonsense in that book. I made some
there's
up.
Half truth. It's fiddle faddle."
Yeah. Which, you don't really know what's fake until the last page where she mentions that in the book Supergirl did kill him. Like she killed Krem. But basically she's here just now because they're going to let Krem out of the Phantom Zone. And we find out that he spent 300 years in the Phantom Zone serving time. And apparently, after 100 years of being angry and then 100 years of whatever, he actually spent the last 100 years being, reformed, and he's been trying to redeem himself, and he's remorseful for what he's done. And Krem comes out of the Phantom Zone, and he starts saying he was a lost soul, and he's begging for forgiveness and all the rest of it. And he's pleading, please forgive me," as he goes over to Ruthie. And the last page is kind of a punchline where Ruthie, with her cane, as an old woman, hits him on the head and walks away. And the final beat of the story is this idea that she's moved on and she has given up her vengeance, but that doesn't mean that she owes him for forgiveness, and that's okay. And she leaves because I did notice that some people online mistook this as her killing him here at the end.
Yeah.
And he's not.
At first I did, because it's all in silhouette. That first panel, it looks like blood spatter, right? So it almost looks like she stabbed him, but then you see him move. Yeah,
he sort of face palms on the ground.
Yeah.
In silhouette. Yeah, he sort of holding his head in pain.
She gives him the old kabang, I saw people complaining too that after all of this, Kara's still referred to as Supergirl and how disrespectful that is. And then when I finally got to read this, I was like, well, wait, that's how Ruthie knows her.
Yeah.
And that's how Krem knows her. So even after all these years, when Kara shows up, and she might be Superwoman, she might have different whatever.
Yeah.
To them, it's still Supergirl.
I don't, and I also like the idea that like it would be disrespectful for her to still be referred to as Supergirl. If she's still cool with being called that, then I don't see the.
Yeah,
the
and I was like, that's a real small thing to get hung up on at the end of this fantastic issue. You know,
and like you say, it's, to them she's still that, regardless of whatever she's been known
and for all we know
in the greater world.
As the movie Interstellar taught us, time moves differently in different spots, right? And so for Krem and whatever, it might have been 300 years, and for Kara though, it might not have been. How long? Because we all know time also moves different in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. Because I'm not assuming that Ruthie's like 300 years old here. I'm assuming she's 80 or something like that.
Right. So like time moves different and all this other stuff. So like, the whole point though is like through his imprisonment in the Phantom Zone, he had to sit with his thoughts, and he learned the same kind of lessons that Ruthie did, just through a different perspective. And at the end of the day, she's just like, well, yeah, no, I'm gonna bonk him on the head. After all of this, so it's really, really well done.
Yeah, and the narration here at the end is at the end of the book, and at the end of the book that she wrote, she actually wrote that Supergirl killed him. And it's just kind of like that. That's like what she meant by, and maybe there was other things that were also kind of fabricated, but that's like the main thing that we know for a fact is false. So no, it's really nice, and it's an interesting touch, because it's all about letting go of what you're obsessing over, of letting go of whether it be vengeance, or in Kara's case, I wouldn't call it vengeance with Krypton, although, but there's definitely an anger.
Yeah, there's with her, it's this weird mix of anger and grief. Is that she has to mourn these people in a way that Clark didn't have to, because Clark never really knew the other Kryptonians. He was a baby.
Yeah.
These are all memories that she has, and that she has to come to terms with her that are just gone.
And and for Ruthie, with the death of her father, that was effectively her world being just taken from her. And it's kind of funny. Like, you in a different context, you could totally do this story with Kara. Like if the ages were different, like this could be Bruce. That's like this could be her trying to like teach Bruce to let go of his anger and vengeance. Although then we wouldn't have Batman, so it would be a different version of that. But like, there's so many superheroes who have this tragic thing that happened in their backstory that you could fit into this if you wanted to. But obviously here we get to actually deal with an original character for all the reasons that offers, and partly because we want it to be this universe-spanning adventure through all these different worlds and species and whatnot. I like that a lot. Supergirl often is defined by being angrier than Superman, and also the fact that she did get to remember Krypton. And I think this being her trying to help someone remove their obsession and anger, but sort of using that to explore that she still has this anger herself, is, I think, it's a good bit of storytelling.
Yeah, and how she learns to move on from it, and becomes with that the super. Let's just call her the Superwoman that shows back up to visit Ruthie, to let her have this closure.
And some of the sentiment towards the end as well, bad things are still going to happen. Cruel are still going to, be cruel to the weak or to the kind. But, you keep trying to help people, you keep trying to do nice things, and you keep trying to restore the balance. And it's those forces, and there's someone like Supergirl who's there to keep trying to push that forward. So there is an uplifting vibe here, but it's also that final little point which has a little bit of humor to it, but it's you can give up your anger and your revenge and all the other things, but it doesn't necessarily mean you owe the person that you were angry at forgiveness either. It's still on them to deal with their own guilt if they ever get to a better place to actually feel that, because obviously Krem didn't, and in the main part of the story, Krem was just this completely monstrous asshole who didn't care about anything but himself, but no, so
very
good. And honestly, the only problem with this is that when you compare it to other Tom King books, is that he's got such a caliber at this point that it's hard to go. I mean, I guess we'll rate this issue first before we bother comparing it. But what are you giving Supergirl issue 8?
I'm gonna give it 8.5.
Yeah. I think I agree with the 8.5. I think I'm in the same wavelength as that. But yeah, as far as comparing it goes, I really dug this story ultimately. I think once it started to find its feet and I knew what it was doing, I was really into it. The only problem is that when I compare it to Rorschach, Strange Adventures, or Mr. Miracle, all of a sudden I'm like, well, it's fourth in the list.
Yeah, just because it's not even an issue length thing, right? It's just kind of the subject matter. This is a lot more focused on Supergirl. Those other books are kind of sprawling. Rorschach had this intricate, web of stuff to keep track of and whatnot. And so for simplicity, that's great, right? It shows a different speed of King. But yeah, it's not but that's still a very strong 4.
Oh, for sure. This is head and shoulders above the stuff that I don't like from King, which is Heroes in Crisis, or this is not even. This is great. This is much better than what Batman and Catwoman is kind of sitting at.
There's only 5 of those, let's say, and that one's easily 6th. Yeah.
So no, this is great. This is the low end of the great Tom King stuff, which sounds like a weird backhanded compliment, but that's a good thing. It's
and with the way Human Target's going too, that seems to be much more of this kind of sprawling where he's taking an issue to deal with a different member of JLI.
Human Target's on a good trajectory. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But but yeah, I just feel like this being the 8 issues.
Yeah.
He it's almost like it was a challenge for him to do the story differently. And I don't know if that's true or not. But this is definitely a different kind of Tom King story, and I appreciate that. Because those other ones definitely feel like more they're cut from the same cloth. Rorschach and Strange Adventures really have a theme of what is the truth. And even, I guess, thinking about it, so does this. because what we know about the ending. So I guess that's not entirely true. Now that I think about it, I need to sit back and take these all in, you know, because Mr. Miracle definitely doesn't. I don't feel has. There's a thread of that, but it's not the almost the point.
Yeah,
there.
He's building a very special library of work at this point, and
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that new book that was announced, and
which seems so different from everything else just on its face. So
it's good stuff.
But yeah, no, Tom King is.
I'm so glad that they found this groove. Like, you know what, this is where he's best suited. So now he's just going to be doing 3 constant minis at any given time, and that's just great.
him with a month-to-month book where it fits into all these different things. I don't think really fit him. So he has this Batman Catwoman book that seems to be more traditional coming. He has that crazy one. I forget the title off the top of my head that we talked about today, and Human Target going right now, and they're all so different, but they all very much feel like Tom King at the same time. And I'm just glad that I don't have to deal with any more of his Batman stuff, like from the, his Batman run. Which, looking back on it, like, sure, there was a lot of good there, but when it didn't work, it really didn't work. And so far,
I'll stick up for the first half of it. I think the first half was great.
Yeah, but like when it was great for me, like the war jokes and riddles, I thought was really, really strong. That Bane story, the I Am Batman, that second arc, I did not enjoy that whatsoever. And it was kind of giving me whiplash.
Anyway, this is tangent into old Tom King stuff again.
With these though, I don't have that sense of whiplash. Like, they're so different, but they still feel very much of the same writer. So I feel like he's, like you said, he found that groove of what kind of stories he wants to tell. So
yeah. All right. There you go. That'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite artist, and rank the top 5 books. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So starting off with panel/moment, Matt, what you
I'm gonna go with the small moment from Nightwing, but it's when you see that Keelix is petting Haley the dog, Bitewing. It almost feels sinister, but sinister in the way parts of ET feel sinister. I just really like it.
That's cool. Connor?
I'm actually going with the very next panel of Keelix being like, "You dropped this fast in my direction," referring to the Christmas stick.
Which is funny because I'm going with the pajama bottoms, so we're all taking panels from the same scene.
What the hell?
Hey, when something pops you, there's
true.
Not much you can do or say. All right, cover of the week. I mean, I think the easy answer for me, honestly, is probably the regular detective cover, that penguin. Like, paintings just wonderfully detailed and like sinister. Yeah, I'm digging it. Obviously, Nightwing cover is very nice. It tends to have at least a couple of good covers.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Detective Wood has feels good to be a gangster on there. That is hilarious.
Yeah, obviously, the Nightwing variant, the Jamal Campbell one, which are usually really pretty, he's eating a slice of pizza up top, and I'm like, that's a very Spider-Man cover.
Yeah.
It's a good cover, though.
Which is not a complaint by any means. All right, Connor, what you got?
I do really like that Nightwing cover, though he's just some other Campbell one. Just a question on that before I tell you what mine actually is. What are those flying in the background?
Is it a Superman?
Because it looks like there are dragons flying.
Oh, dragons? Oh, I already closed the thing.
Are they drones?
I don't know. They look like dragons. There's just silhouettes like further back. I don't know what they're meant to be, but...
Oh, no, I think that's like a Superman with the capes kind of sprawling.
Really?
Oh, on the left.
They're like pterodactyls to me.
Pterodactyls is closest to dragons. I'll take that. I could buy the one on the left being a pterodactyl.
Oh, no.
I think
it's just birds. They're just birds.
Yeah.
Very
That's the first time a mysterious flying object's been revealed to be a bird.
I mean, the one in the right is a bit of a weird angle, so I think it's sort of like side on, so it looks like a bit of a weird shape. But I think it's just the birds flapping their wings.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, my choice is the Wonder Woman variant. I think that's gorgeous.
Sure. All right, Matt.
Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow variant. There's something about the colors that I really love. It's kind of got that pastel.
Okay.
Her cape's flying up.
The pink cosmos underneath.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's cool. All right. And then best art of the week. Connor can go first.
Ooh, it's down to either Nightwing or Batman the Night. I think those are the only two real contenders for me, at least. Given that I didn't have Evilly, otherwise that would probably be, which should definitely be up there. I'll give it to Giandomenico for Batman the Night.
All right, Matt.
So, yes, Evilly, great. We all know how I stand with Evilly, and I love Redondo, but I have to give Takara the credit for Wonder Woman for really elevating this week's issue.
Really dynamic layouts, that kind of.
Yep. The layouts, just everything really comes together. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Wonder Woman.
Cool. I'm gonna go with Redondo for Nightwing actually, because I think obviously the Evilly stuff's fantastic, but there's something so expressive about his art and the way it captures the reactions between the characters and the funny moments and the more dramatic moments. It even does some stuff where it's like, I mean, it's great with the facial expressions, but there's even that moment with like Superman in the fortress when he's in silhouette when he's sad. It's like, so there's a nice range of like always getting across kind of the feeling that the characters have in the scene. So I'm gonna go with Redondo on Nightwing. So that's cool. All right, so ranking the top 5 books, Matt, on you go.
All right, so number 1 is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, 2 is Nightwing, 3 is Tech, 4 is Wonder Woman, and 5 is, can't remember what I gave the Night and Flash, so I'll go with Flash.
Cool. Connor?
Yeah, I'm sure Pete could have told you what you gave him if you asked nicely.
Yeah, he could have. It's
fine. I'll go with Batman the Night, then I'll give it to Detective, the backup, kind of pulling it up a bit, then Nightwing, then Wonder Woman.
All right, I'm going to go with... Yeah, probably give it to Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow at number 1, then Nightwing at number 2, and Detective at number 3, Wonder Woman at 4, and then at number 5, Batman the Night. So there you go. That is the top 5 books of the week. So I will tell you now what's coming next week from DC Comics. So coming up, we have Detective Comics 1054. We have Action Comics 1040. We have Robin issue 11, Catwoman issue 40, DC vs. Vampires issue 5, The Human Target issue 5, Harley Quinn issue 12, Teen Titans Academy issue 12, Task Force Z issue 5, Deathstroke Inc. issue 6, Blue and Gold issue 6, Batman vs. Bigsby, A Wolf in Gotham issue 6, Aquaman issue 1. I thought I already started, to be honest. Maybe it's because I've seen it in solicits so many times at this point. Aquaman Green Arrow Deep Target issue 5, Refrigerator Full of Heads issue 4, DC Horror Presents Soul Plumber issue 5, Wonder Woman Evolution issue 4, and then only tangentially related, but Man Magazine issue 24 as well, for those who it may concern. So pretty cool week coming up. Detective action, Human Target, some exciting stuff.
Vampires
to check out. Vampires, of course. So looking forward to that. And I'll definitely do a Patreon boot next week. I could have done one this week, but you know what? I knew there was going to be solicits and Comixology talk driving up the length of this one, so I left out.
My work schedule is yet to be determined as to whether or not I'll be here next week, as we spoke about earlier. So if I'm here, I'll do Harley Quinn, I guess.
And if not, he'll do it the next time he's on.
That's generally how it works, yeah.
It's exciting. So yeah, that's what's coming next week. So I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to... Oh my God, Skype, why are you being awful? All right. It was covering my post-it with my names on it, and it wasn't like Like, it wouldn't go underneath it no matter what.
You don't have to explain it. Skype can be awful sometimes.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Anyway, thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bornow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M4 Days. They're Patreon producers for the month. You can support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month. Obviously, one of the higher tiers gets you the producer credit, but at the $5 tier, you get early access to the show. You get it sometime late on the Saturday, whenever it's out the oven, before everyone else does on the Sunday. So, go and have a look, see if you're interested in what to help support the content and keep everything coming. Of course, you get bonuses for the other shows that are produced as part of Mail Fuzz TV and Mail Fuzz Movies, such as the horror movie podcast Screams After Midnight, the sci-fi movie podcast, the Atomic Cinema Experiment. So if you want to hear me ramble with other people about movies, feel free. In fact, if you go to the Mail Fuzz Movies YouTube channel, in the past week, I had to do a 2-hour review of the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy with...
Oh, hang on. You had to do a review. No one said you had to make it 2 hours.
Oh, Pete had to make it 2 hours because he wants people to feel pain, but also pleasure. So
He just cares.
which fits the theme of 50 Shades when you think about it.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was going for.
No amount of Dakota Johnson can make me watch those movies.
I mean, there's a lot of Dakota Johnson.
I know, and I haven't seen those.
I've seen them all twice.
Why have you seen them twice?
It's a long story. Trust me, it was not by choice. It was not a choice to see them all twice.
Is this Pete's villain origin story? And we were talking about Eldritch Horrors earlier?
Sometimes things just line up in a really bad way. In the space of a few days, I had to review the 50 Shades trilogy, right? Which meant rewatching the first two and watching the third one. I had to review on streams the third Twilight movie, so I had to watch that. And for the 500th episode of Screams, we were compelled to do Uwe Boll's Alone in the Dark. So in the space of a few days, I had to watch a 50 Shades movie.
How you say compelled to when you're the one who put this out into the world in the first place.
But that doesn't mean that he had to.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, he put it there.
He came up with the idea and was like, hey, we'll do this.
Yes, but then people paid for it, so then I'm committed to it. Right. So, yes. So the Twilight 3 review and the 50 Shades trilogy review, those are out. The Alone in the Dark one's coming soon. Anyway, Mail Fuzz Movies, if you want to go.
I mean, I watched Texas Chainsaw at the beginning, and that was terrible, but there's nothing that probably compares to the terribleness of Uwe Boll's Alone in the Dark. Isn't that starring Tara Reid?
It does star Tara Reid, yes.
Yeah. Oof.
And Christian Slater.
Oh, poor Christian Slater.
And Stephen Dorff. So yes, they're in that. Yes. So, by all means, go check out and watch The Misery. So, yes. David, who does the Not Choosing New 52 show on the Comics From The Multiverse channel, was a co-host on the 50 Shades review. He showed up wearing nipple clamps, so go check out that. But that is my plugging out the way. Other than just asking you to like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, and of course rate the show on iTunes or wherever you get podcasts from 5 stars. There's a podcast website called Podchaser that I happened to notice we had like an average of like half a star on it based on a couple of reviews. Some people didn't like us on there for some reason. So I told people on Twitter to go bump our rating up. We're up to 4 stars now.
Oh, good.
But
thank you, Twitter.
But by all means, go and bump up the rating to get the average up. By all means.
Oh, bad.
But yes.
What were the reviews with Connor or without Connor?
I am the shining light of honesty.
Yeah, you're like a laser to the eye, bud.
Yes. Yes.
Accurate though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. That little bit of wood splinter that you get stuck in your shoe and you want to get rid of it, but you just can't find a way to remove it.
But it's the pain that reminds you that you're alive.
All right, let's go.
It makes you wish you weren't, I think, most notably. So thank you for joining us. This has been Comics From The Multiverse, episode 293. We'll be back next week with 294, because that's how numbers work. So we'll see you then. Keep reading DC Comics, even if it takes some effort on the digital end now. But, find a way, because life should find a way. And thank you once again. We'll see you next time. And always remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.